Good morning, and we thank you for being here to the County Commission regular meeting. Are we live? Okay, good deal. Today is Tuesday, July 27th, 2021. It is 9 o'clock in the morning. Our invocation this morning will be led by Pastor Robert Bush with Faith Baptist Church, and our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Adamsack. All rise if you're able to do so.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we're so thankful that we can be gathered here today. God, we're thankful that, Lord, we have a system of government that allows us the freedoms that we have. We pray, Lord, that as these county commissioners and different workers, Lord, of the county would gather here this morning to conduct business, we pray, Lord, that you might give them wisdom, that you might give them soft hearts and yielded wills. We pray, Lord, that justice would be done, righteousness would be exalted, and Lord, we do pray also for those out sick, Lord, for those with different medical issues today. We pray that you would be with them as well. We thank you, we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Bush, and thank you, Commissioner Adamsack, for that. Gentlemen, on our agenda, the next item is the approval of the minutes of stated in your transportation workshop here.
Move approval.
Proper motion by Commissioner Turner.
I'll second.
Proper second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussion on this topic? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. We will recess our meeting for 3 minutes, and then we'll call to order the solid waste collection meeting. So we're gonna take a break for just a second and come back as the solid waste collection district. (9:05), and we will get started. We're going to call to order our solid waste collection and disposal district. And the first item of business is appeals to decision made by the Solid Waste Committee, Tannerol and Scott. All right. Who's bringing that to us? Julianne, do we have anybody?
Good morning, Commissioners. Ms. Scott is requesting a correction or refund on the solid waste fee on her property at 110 Vincent Road. The request was heard by the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee February 24th, 2021, where it was denied as it fell under the scope of a special assessment as defined by Putnam County Code of Ordinances 34-41. We are here to make a decision in regard to her appeal.
Okay, is the applicant in the room? Would like to speak? All right, seeing none, commissioners, any deliberations?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we uphold the decision of the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee.
Proper motion by Commissioner
Second.
Turner. Proper second by Commissioner Adamsack. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Next is the appeal to decision made by Solid Waste Committee. Elliott.
Yes, sir. Chairman, Mr. Elliott is requesting a correction or refund on the solid waste fee on his property at 118 Clear Lake Lane, Hawthorne. The request was heard at the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee on February 24th, 2021, where it was denied as it fell under the scope of the special assessment as defined by Putnam County Code of Ordinance 34-41.
Okay, thank you. Is Mr. and Mrs. Elliott here? Would like to speak? All right, seeing that they're not here, we'll close that public portion of it. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we uphold the decision of the Solid Waste Committee.
Second.
Proper motion by Commissioner Pickens, proper second by Commissioner Adamsack. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Next is the appeal to decision made by Solid Waste Committee, Fiber Corn.
Yes, sir. Chairman, Mr. Fiblecorn has requested a correction or refund of the solid waste fee on his property at 132 Walter Drive. The request was heard at the Solid Waste Adjustment Committee on June 3rd, 2021, where it was denied as it fell under the scope of the special assessment as defined by the Putnam County Code of Ordinance 34-41.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is Mr. Fiblecorn here? Not here, we'll close the public portion of that. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I have a question.
Mr. Rawls, you have the floor.
So what he's saying to us in his letter is that apparently the property is not livable. Has there been any effort by the county to determine that it may not be livable? And then is this one of those slippery slopes where you open a code case against yourself?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Turner, you may.
it came to light at the Solid Waste Committee that the property could be made livable again, and our ordinance clearly states that if you have a residence, that residence, and part of a lot of people that are upset about this, they come in and they say, we didn't use the garbage, but it was available for them to use.
Correct, yep.
So then they're upset, and this is one of those cases that they're upset that they had to pay assessment from 2004 to now, even though they didn't use the garbage. If they have a home that meets the definition of a home under our ordinance, they have to pay, and so that's what happened here.
Okay.
But the remedy could be that they remove the structure off the property and then they.
Or I was thinking, yeah.
Demo the property, and then there wouldn't be a home there for them to do solid waste on. But in a lot of instances, people used to be, in years past, they were allowed to remove the electric meter off the building, but then they determined what happens was as soon as the solid waste is removed, they go and put the meter back on the building and somebody moves in. So that got eliminated years ago, and basically if you have a structure there, then you have to pay solid waste unless you remove the structure.
I was wondering if they removed the certificate of occupancy, if that would be a remedy, but I think you're right. They're either gonna fix the house or not, but last time we did this, we discussed the problem that people create for themselves and
Yeah. they do.
tattling on themselves, basically.
Well, it appears that it's blighted anyway, so
Yeah.
it needs to be cleaned up.
Cleaned up.
Probably with a demo permit would be
Demoed, yeah.
the best thing in the world that could happen. It can't cost that much, and they probably save on, yeah, so.
Yeah, one of the things that we did, I think it was last year or the year before, is we changed the rules just a little bit to allow us to give them relief for a year, for instance, from solid waste. And because of that, then the building department would have to go out and look at them. And so in almost every instance that happens, when they go out and look at them, it's an instant code case.
Right.
Because they're not the code. And so that's happened quite a bit this year in the process, where that process was, that procedure was never built in the old process, so now it is. so.
For Ms. Myers, for your sake, I think this is your first time attending. In some cases, you'll read in the packet that they're old mobile homes and they're using them for storage. That's not allowed under our code. So, you know, it can't be done like that. So, as Commissioner Turner just said, sometimes when they appeal it, they cause themselves a more problem. They cause themselves a problem by now they have a codes case on the property by doing that. So, and that happens quite often. So, okay, what's the pleasure of the board on this item?
I make a motion that we move this forward and deny the request for relief and follow the advice of the Solid Waste Disposal Committee.
Got a proper motion by Commissioner Rawls, proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion on the motion on the table? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, the ayes have it. The next item is item D, adopt the resolution setting solid waste assessments and user fees. I don't think Jay's
That's
not
still
here,
me.
so Ms. Young, you got this?
Item D, I think we missed on that.
Yes.
We're on D.
Where I'm at
Okay,
now.
excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's
sir.
okay.
Thank you, Chairman. By county ordinance, the board is required to establish by resolution a solid waste special assessment and user fees prior to the beginning of each fiscal year. The landfill operations portion of the solid waste special assessment and user fee is proposed to be decreased from $140 to $125. The recycling component will remain constant at $39 per household unit. This will result in a combined cost of $164 per year for each household in the county for disposal and recycling, which is a decrease of $15 from the previous year. Staff is also recommending no changes to the tipping fee for fiscal year 21-22.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any comments from the commissioners on this item?
Does this need to be read in?
I'm sorry?
Does it need to be read? It says we're adopting a resolution. Do we need to read it by title or?
Not resolutions.
No, no. We're good, just like we are. We're just
Mr.
setting-
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt the decrease of $15 previous from the additional year.
Proper motion by Commissioner Turner.
What else do I need, Julianne?
We need a motion adopting the resolution setting the special assessment and tipping fees.
Yeah, I move that we adopt this resolution setting the tipping fees.
Thanks, sir.
Sorry.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Rawls, I did not understand that. I should have read the next line, so.
This, but I've been having some email back and forth with Ms. Julianne. I'm trying to understand the need for the size of the reserve that we have for solid waste. My understanding from our communication, the requirement is 20 million. And I think in our budget for next year, I think it's 38 million. So what is the need for that other $18 million?
So remember, when we did the public hearing in January and we brought in those additional funds that had been sitting in basically cash, we put 11 of that in a restricted reserve account for future projects. That's his expansion, his mining, all of the things that are in addition to the FDEP closure dollars that has to be retained. So he has quite a bit of significant capital outlay dollars that go towards assisting with his mining and ensuring that his airspace stays within his limits.
So how do we account for the other 7 million?
The other, well, it's like 6.9 is in contingency reserves. As an enterprise fund, what he typically does is attempts to not change this rate up and down based on future growth. So if he's expecting that in 4 years he's going to need to do a significant construction project on another cell, what we try to do is budget that out. So we essentially attempt to start putting in savings or contingency, if you will, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, so that then, like when we built this year, we did cell 4A, it cost us $7.9 million. So that we don't have to hit our constituents with a tax bill that particular year to cover one-time project like that.
Okay, so we have a project set for that 6.9 million, or
Mr.
just,
Tilton has several projects set for that.
That's the 11
But
million,
it's future
correct?
growth. It's based on growth and at the point at which he needs to engage in that.
so the 11 million is for what? Is for future growth and plans that already exist. So there's another 6.9 million. That's for other future growth and plans that exist?
Essentially both. The 11 is in a restricted future projects fund that would require board action at a 505 hearing to move the funds into an operational account. The other would allow the board to move it at a normal board meeting based on any particular capital need that comes up for him.
such as equipment purchases or whatever that.
Right, and we've approved some of those, right? I just, with that size reserve, I'd like to see us maybe attempt to give a little bit back to the citizens, more than $15 each. That just seems like a really small amount we already have $11 million planned for future. We have the $20 million, which is a requirement. We don't have a choice in that. And then we have 6.9 million. I mean, what are we adding to that this year into last year?
We're not adding anything to that with this proposed budget.
Okay. I'd just like to see us give a little bit more back to the public, but that's my opinion.
Mr. Turner, you have the floor, sir.
I agree with Commissioner Adams' act that we need to give back every dime that we can from the landfill. That's been the goal from day one, not only to reduce the assessment to zero, but also to be able to make enough money off of the landfill to pay for part or all of the pickup fee. That has always been the goal, and I agree 100%. But right now we have the biggest reason we're in the shape that we're in, which is very good shape at the landfill at this present time, is that we've taken two funding partners, basically. One of them is ELS out of Bunnell, and the other one is Waste Pro. The Waste Pro has been worked out for us real well, but we don't have a signed contract with them. So basically, at any given time, and even in the ELS contract, I believe they've got 60 days they can give us notice and walk away. If we lose those two funding partners, then this shiny picture that we're sitting up here on today is not going to be shiny.
That's right.
I'm just telling you, that's the reason why we're conservatively trying to give this money back. We know that 4B's coming. We're lining it right now. That's going to give us capacity for a few years. After 4B, we've got to move straight on to 5A and start mining in 5B, and so this is a long-term thing that Mr. Tilton has been working on since we got him some help, and he can spend some time on it. He's off this week, but that's the goal, is to try to come up with a long-term plan that we haven't had for many years, that he can present the commission as a whole and let us know what the plans are moving forward. And so $7 million is a lot of money. I get it, it really is, but $7 million in unrestricted funds is basically something going haywire, like losing an ELS contractor or Waste Pro not bringing garbage anymore, and that $7,000 just evaporated. So, you know, through normal expenditures and equipment replacements and what have you. So,
Mr. Turner, could I ask you to clean something up?
Sure.
When you mentioned Waste Pro contracts, it's out of county contracts,
Right.
correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have Orman.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. They bring us their Orman what was it called, shipping station or whatever. Right. They bring theirs, and it's a deal that we made with them a couple of years ago. I don't know exactly when. And we were trying to finish up on the final contracts on it and get them to sign the contracts, but the fellow that we've been dealing with for the last 2 years, Mr. Ralph Veloci, passed away last week, or week before last, and so that's put a little hiccup in it. But they're still performing, and they're still paying, and they're still doing the things right to the line of what the agreement was, and so the county hasn't cut them off because they've been performing. So if we need to get their John Henry on a piece of paper to make it any better, then okay, fine. But I sure don't want to run them guys off, because right now there's what them and ELS are the two that put us in the shape that we're in right now compared to 3 years ago, when our reserves were half of this or less. The $21 million that the state, I thought it was 21, but it could be 20. The state,
Yeah, 20.9, I think.
20.9, so 20.9 million that the state makes us keep in reserves for closure, future closure. And as the landfill gets bigger, see, that's another thing you got to understand. All it takes is the state to come in and say, whoop, we've changed our mind. You got to have 30 million now instead of 20 million. There's no rhyme or reason to this. It's just that they decide that they want you to have more reserves, and they come in and say you got to. That would burn up all our reserves right there, just in the snap of a finger, and we'd have no control over that whatsoever. So you have to carry a little more reserves than what I would normally like to carry if for no other reason, for that reason. The state could just change their mind and raise the closure fund amount up $5 or $10 million at the snap of a finger, and then we'd just have nothing to do with it, about it. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Adams,
So I guess with Jay not being here, I had some other questions that I had talked to him about that I wanted to have on the record, but I guess we can't do that. Are we under the gun to get this done today, or could we delay this to another meeting where Jay could be present? Is it, I mean, is this a mandate that today's date it needs to be decided? Because I guess my other questions is, I mean, I understand everything you're saying there, but our contractual revenue is only 2.8 million, so we keeping almost 3 times that. So I understand if we wanted to keep our 2.8 million to cover a year's worth while we try to find another contract to sign. I think that's a great idea. 6.9 seems excessive to me. Even if we did 2 times, let's say we thought it might take 2 years to get, there's people looking to find places for their garbage all over the state of Florida. And the other thing I want to ask Jay is where we're at, because I know he was chasing some other potential customers. So I just would like to have an update on that, where we're at with other potential customers to be able to do this. So kind of have the more customers we have, the more buffer we have, obviously, because we have multiple revenue streams. With 2, I agree, we have a risk, but I don't know that the risk warrants 6.9 million. I think the risk, to me, warrants like 3.2, or if we wanted to be really conservative, 2 years worth, which would be like 5.6, which would allow us to give, I don't know what that looks like for the number of citizens paying in, which would allow us to give back 900,000 or so, at least. I think actually 1.2 million. What would that look like in a reduction in the fees? 1.2 million across the number of people we're giving service to.
I'd have to run the numbers for you.
Well, are you done, sir?
Yeah, and that's kind of, and I had other questions for Jay, but he's not here, so.
Mr. Turner,
Yeah,
Mr.
no problem.
Mr. Rawls is next.
I think the question was answered, but part of what I want to discuss today, not just on this topic, but other topics, is not only strategic planning, but just planning and policies for each department. So if what I'm hearing is we're going to be having a workshop real soon, I'll wait for that. If not, I think we do need to have a workshop, a special workshop that addresses nothing but the landfill, so we can all start getting our heads wrapped around what the vision is for the landfill, and we can feed this to the public as well.
Thank you. And I want to say something. Commissioner Turner hit the nail on the head. We all want to give back as much money as we possibly can. There's no doubt about that. But when I was sitting where you were sitting now, Mr. Adams, many years ago, the conversation was to sell this huge asset that we had. And when I did my trip around Florida to learn solid waste, it was incredible what I learned. And I knew it was a billion-dollar asset we had sitting out there. Selling the landfill to prop up the general fund was the question at that time. Really couldn't have been done because it's an enterprise fund and you've got to recapture expenses out of there. So it wasn't like you could just move that whole line item over to general fund. It wasn't going to happen. But I do want to applaud Commissioner Turner taking the bull by the horns on this one and partnering with Jay and our administration of getting our new solid waste person here. The last one just really had sell in mind, and this one has growth. But when it comes to growth, you have other costs. And again, you have landfill costs, and you have set aside dollars that need to be looked at. So by growing, and I can tell you that we're one of the only counties around that still has and operates a landfill. And it's a very valuable asset. Believe me, there's not a commissioner that touches our county that doesn't talk to me once a year just about wants to talk about landfill. So we have an asset and we need to have a long-term plan. You're right, Commissioner Rawls, and I think we're working to that. There's also some things that I've talked to Jay about being consistent with scales in West Putnam and South Putnam. That's been an issue for those 2 collection centers. They're not convenient centers, they are collection. I want to point that out. It's convenient to put it out by the road and somebody picks it up. It's not.
Convenient collection.
Yeah, it's convenient collection, correct. But with that in mind, then we can become standard. Jay's got some prices that was not going to break the bank. So I think that this is a great idea of lowering it at $15. I think if we try to give away too much more, we could come back years from now and need to add to it if we got into a problem. So I think small bites of the apple are better than large bites. Commissioner Adamsack? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Turner, you had.
And please keep in mind when we're doing this, that this 15 this year, but we gave back 41 last year.
Right.
So that's 56 in 2 years, and I don't know if any of y'all that's went to the grocery store or went and bought anything else lately, but it sure as hell ain't cheaper. You know, and it's just the same thing out at the landfill too. It's the same thing. Fuel's gone up, equipment's gone up, everything about it's gone up. And so, you know, I want to be aggressive like you, Commissioner Adamsack. I truly do, and give back as much, because like I said, the end goal of this is that the citizens of Putnam County get their garbage tended to for zero. That they don't have to pay pickup, they don't have to pay anything, but we're not there yet. We got to continue licking the popsicle until it gets a little further closer to the stick. And then we could maybe get a little better, you know, a little better. It concerns me greatly that.
Every week I learn a new analogy.
Well, no, that was from 2 weeks ago, three licks and a bite, remember? So that was, yeah, 3 licks and a bite.
So anyhow, I really feel like because of that we do have to carry a little heavier reserves here because of the fact that of the uncertainty of the state and what they could do to the DEP could do to our just at the snap of a finger, our reserves that we have, our restricted reserves for closures could go up, and there's just nothing we could do about it. There's no appeal process that I'm aware of. There's not anything. So I mean, you got to carry a little heavier reserves, because the last thing that I want to do is give back $40 again, and then we have to raise it next year $30.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not good. We need to have a slow, steady plan, keeps us on course, and then, especially if we get another one of these funding partners that Commissioner Adamsack was referring to, I don't want to be a regional landfill. Never did, never want to. But we do need funding partners to make this work, and we're going to have this asset one way or the other. We may as well try to make it be an asset to the citizens of the county who ultimately own the landfill. Thank you, Mr.
Well
Chairman.
said. Mr. Adamsack, you have the floor?
Yeah, I'm just gonna simplify it again. If their justification for the $6.9 million is the funding partners, and the funding partners only bring in $2.8 million, I think that's an overstep financially. And I understand the other inputs are out of our control, but and I do appreciate you mentioning the scales, because I think that's very important. So are the scales part of the budget of that 14 million? Is that of the operating budget? Is that in there?
The 14 million, you're
the
saying the
total- the
reserves for
total-
future projects, it could be at the direction of the board. And let me interject one more thing. While Mr. Tilton is not supposed to be here and he's not supposed to be working, he's also texting me that part of his conservative request is also because we are not sure where inflation is going to take us over the next year with operating costs as well as project costs. And so certainly it's a conservative, but a give back.
So how much do we budget in the budget for inflation? I mean, I would assume we were forward-thinking enough to know some inflation's coming. So do we say 5%? Did we say 2%?
It would change
Did we
based
say
on the
zero?
line item. Obviously, gas is going to be a different cost of inflation versus just supplies.
So we budgeted some for inflation as well
Yes, correct.
in our plan, so. I mean, that's why we budget.
Right.
So, again, I think 6.9 is too much. If, I understand the 11 million, and if we need to take 200,000 for scales, we need to prioritize. I think we need to have done that yesterday. We've been talking about that for several months. And the idea of the scales, as everyone knows, is currently if you live in West Putnam or South Putnam down Crescent City, you have to pay a tipping fee no matter what when you show up. So what we're having is we're having a lot of dumping, because there's people that show up and don't realize they have to pay to unload their truck, because unless you go to the central landfill, they have a scale where they can weigh it and it can come out of your free allotment. So a lot of these, what we think is happening, what appears to be happening, is people leave there with a full truck because they don't want to pay the $52 or $28 or whatever, and that's leaving their truck somewhere in the county, and it's not necessarily at their house or the dump. So that is occurring. We've basically are aware of that. So the idea is to get scales in both South Putnam and West Putnam, so that in their communities they can get there, get the weight, and use their 2,000. I think it's 2,000 pounds
It is.
allotment for the year. So that, I think that's a good move for all of us, and that would benefit so I'd be more than willing to subtract that full amount, or even double of it from the 6.9 to make sure that happens to benefit the community. So, I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Mr. Turner, you have the floor.
A couple of things. I agree with you on the scales, and I'm almost certain that Mr. Tilton is working diligently to try to come up with a plan on both those locations. But with that being said, I do think we need to move this forward today, because at any time during the next year, we can always drop it for next year or be more heavy or be whatever. My biggest concern here is that if we drop it too fast, that we're gonna have to raise it next year, and that's just not healthy.
That's right.
I mean, it's just not a healthy environment. So with that, Mr. Chairman,
Hang on, Mr. Pickens has one comment, then the chair will entertain a
But
motion.
you know it was just one.
Mr. Pickens has the floor. How's that thing?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with most everything that's been said here. And I knew we needed scales when I got elected 5 years ago, but there was not money for that. With Mr. Turner's work and the agreement of the board to go along with this, hiring a new sanitation director, we have moved forward where we're taking in some money there, so we have some revenue. So I think Jay mentioned earlier in the year that he's got plans for the Huntington Convenience Center as far as doing some work there, and I'm hoping that a scale will be put in there, because it will make it, more fair, more consistent, and hopefully eliminate some of the illegal dumping that we're getting. Some people are just not going to go anywhere. They're just going to throw it on the side of the road anyway. And also, I think I agree that moving this down, we moved it 2 times last year and this year. Moving it down is a positive thing, but moving it too fast, I would not agree with. I do respect on the reserves, so maybe that need to be looked at. But also, some of these contracts that cities or whatever municipalities sign into, they're longer contracts, aren't they, Commissioner Turner? So it's not like they're up every single year. So we may have to wait 3 or 4 or 5 years to bring somebody in. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I just appreciate the board willingness to allow Commissioner Turner to do what they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pickens. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt a resolution setting the special assessments and tipping fees for fiscal year 21 and 22 as outlined.
Do you have a second?
I second it.
Proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussion on the motion, Mr. Adams-Act?
I simply just can't get there with the 6.9. I mean, I'm all for if it's 2 years worth of that operating expense, if that's the purpose of that. And so I'll be a no vote on this, but appreciate everyone's input.
Thank you. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. And that will end our Solid Waste Committee and Disposal District. And we'll recess for 2 minutes. Mayor Myers, thank you for joining us from down south.
It is actually 2021-27. So I'm going to be leading with this and then go to 26 after.
So is the zoning map amendment 26 then?
The PUD is 20, the PUD is 27, and then the second item for the rezone is 20. They're
Thank you.
just, the ordinance numbers are different.
All right, good.
Are
Ready to
reversed.
get going then.
Okay. This is an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the official zoning map for Putnam County Incorporated into Article 2 of the Putnam County Land Development Code, Ordinance 2005-18, providing for severability and an effective date. This is case PUD 21-006. The applicant is Ronald and Dawn Delisle. It's a rezoning of 5 acres from residential mobile home to planned unit development at 102 LC Drive. It's for overnight RV campground, and the future land use is urban service. This is the location, the future land use and current zoning, the conceptual plan of the PUD. The PUD limit development for 40 RV park model cabin sites, an owner residence, site built or modular. This portion of the PUD was amended to add this on June 30th after the planning board, but yet before this meeting. An office, restroom, bathroom, bathhouse, laundry, pool, playground, utility, storage buildings, 35-foot buffer between PUD boundary and RV sites. Water and sanitary sewer will be provided by Putnam County. The applicant has presented evidence that the rezoning to PUD is justified. The proposed PUD development is consistent with the future land use designation. The proposed project is compatible with the existing uses in the area. The development is consistent with the requirements of the PUD zoning and consistent with other comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. Staff recommended approval of the request, and on June 9th, 2021, the Putnam County Planning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval to BOCC. The applicant is here if you have any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Wendy right now?
No.
Seeing none, we're going to go to public comment. Oh, ex parte communication. Mr. Adamczak, have you had any? No. Mr. Turner?
I got done.
No.
Mr. Pickens? Well, I've had a lot. I was from the beginning, years ago, helping Mr. Delisle and Mrs. Delisle get this started. And I just want to say it's a pleasure that we finally get to have this come before us today. So we're going to open up to the public. Is there anybody in the public wishing to speak in favor of this application? Mr. Delisle, do you want? Well, I'll get to you in a minute. Anybody here speaking in opposition of this application? Okay, Mr. Delisle, would you like to come up and say anything, or are you good? Okay, good deal. Okay. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2021-027. I believe that's correct.
Okay. Proper motion by Commissioner Ross to approve the resolution and the ordinance, and proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Wendy, you're up next on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't think it's inappropriate at all to say that I'm looking forward to this coming to the area. I think it'll be a great asset for that little area in there, and I'm glad to see it come.
I agree.
Yeah. It's been a long time coming.
Well, the old Captain Joe's was a very lively place back in the day, so wasn't it, Mr. Turner?
I think, it's fair to say too, that with some of the development that's starting to creep up in that area, I think it's really going to benefit our folks here. It's low impact development,
Yep.
and it's low impact economic development, so we don't
I agree.
benefit from it.
I agree. Wendy?
This is an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the official zoning map for Putnam County Incorporated to Article 2 of the Putnam County Land Development Code, Ordinance 2005-18, providing for severability and effective date. This case is R21-13. The applicant is Dominic and Angela Bonecutter. It's a zoning map amendment for a single parcel from R2 to Commercial General 3. The property is located at 571 South US Highway 17, San Mateo. The parcel is designated commercial on the future land use map, contains 202 feet of frontage on South US 17 and 155 feet of frontage on Wirtz Road. The property is currently vacant. This is the location, the maps. Staff finds that the proposed rezoning to C3 is consistent with the comprehensive plan, consistent with the locational requirements of the C3 zoning, compatible with the surrounding land use. Staff recommended approval to the planning board on June 9, 2021, and the planning commission voted in 6 to 1 to recommend approval to the BOCC. The applicant is available if you have any questions.
Good deal. Commissioners, any questions for Wendy right now? Okay.
I guess,
Mr. Adamczyk, you have the floor, sir.
why are the C3 over C2? Just because there isn't a lot of difference between the two. Is there a special use in C3 they're pursuing, or?
Maybe the applicant can add something to that.
We'll get to you in just a moment on that one. Let's get,
He really had not had a specific use at this time, but by the same token, he has C4 next to him.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's to be inconsistent with the area.
Yeah, it's a transition down.
Okay.
Good
Thank
deal.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Adamczyk, for that question. And, okay, is there anybody here, we're going to, since the commissioners don't have any questions, do we have any public comment in favor of this plan? We'll get to you in a second, Mr. Applicant, okay? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this request? Okay, sir, if you'd like to come up and say something? Okay, good, good. And Mr. Adamczyk, okay, good. All right, any further questions? And the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2021-26.
Proper motion by Commissioner Rawls. Proper second by Commissioner Turner. Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. And I tell you, it's really a pleasure to see things happening in this county. We knew it was going to happen, and it's nice to see that. And it's evenly spread out throughout the county, I will tell you that. So Sam, you're at the right spot at the right time.
It's extra nice when it happens in District 3.
I knew you would come up with something like that. Okay, good. All right, next case is our public hearing on emergency services. It's for 9:30, and we're at 9:43. Mr. Grimes, our Public Safety Director, would you like to come up and walk us through this one?
We're coming to you today, good morning, by the way,
Do what?
to look at our ordinance for emergency and non-emergency transports in Putnam County.
Mr. Grimes, will you read the ordinance by title?
Yes, sir.
Please.
An ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the Article 2 of Chapter 20 of the Putnam County Code relating to emergency and non-emergency medical transportation services and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, sir.
What this basically does is it gives us the ability, before we had not really a non-emergency that could take them out of the county. We had a non-emergency contract in the county. So this basically sets parameters where people can apply for different levels of services that are needed through, and to be able to do non-emergency interfacility transfers from our emergency room to an outlying facility, whether they're going to Orange Park or Shands Jacksonville. It gives them the ability to do that. Before, we were the only provider that could take non-emergency calls out of the county. When the governor put us underneath our local state of emergency for COVID, some of that stuff got lifted. We're still underneath ours, keeping it so we can do non-emergency interfacility transfers out of the ER. So this gives us the flexibility that if a company wants to come down and do non-emergency transfers, they can run backup 911. So if our system is swamped, like we've seen a huge increase with the sickness in the county at this point, it gives them the ability to run backup 911 for us. So it has a lot of advantages, and it just gives the people an application process to go through. The ultimate decision comes back to you guys, whether we issue the COPC and the Certificate of Public Conveyance and Necessity. Back to you guys. You can deny it, but it gives them an application process to come through. The one thing that I would suggest whenever we do look at our fee schedules next month is we put a fee in to apply for these specific licenses, because there's nothing in the fee ordinance right now. So if they did apply for them right now, there would be no payment until we adopt a fee when we look at those. So I'd recommend that in the future.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Grimes? Mr. Rawls, you have the floor.
All right. The I was talking with some of the staff the other day at EMS and even this morning. One of my questions, and this actually came from one of our constitutionals, when I was speaking with him, was what is your anticipated, what is a good response time right now for Putnam County EMS? If I said, what is your stated goal right now for response to our citizens?
To get to a citizen
Yes.
from any geographic location, because I mean, that's kind of hard to answer. You know, I mean, it depends on the emergency. I mean, we only got time. I mean, you know, if you cardiac arrest, you start losing brain cells at 6 minutes. I mean, but I don't know that there's any agency
What is our objective right now?
to lower response times. I mean,
But
that's
so we don't have a published objective?
a published objective.
So
No,
one
sir.
of, I guess, you know, I've been sitting up here for 2 years, very frustrated with the system that we have. And then when I was talking with someone the other day, it just hit me like a ton of lead, that part of the problem is we don't have a published policy that says we want to be less than 10 minutes. I mean, obviously, 5 minutes or less, especially in cardiac arrest, is crucial to life safety. And that's one of our charges, is to be able to provide public safety. And I'm becoming aware of what's going on at the hospital with long turnover times, which frustrates me because we should be able to have an ambulance pull up there, drop a patient off, but not have to monitor that patient, or in some cases, 3 or 4 or 5 patients,
But
because
doing
that's.
this should help that, I think.
Huh?
I said, doing
Well,
what he's
it-
requesting
it-
should help that, I
It may
think.
or may not. What I'm saying is it shouldn't be an option ever for us to have an ALS unit tied up, or a BLS unit. I don't think we have any, but an ALS unit tied up at the hospital, having to monitor their patients. So it seems to me like there's a breakdown at the hospital level, realizing that it's a private corporation. They've got to do what they have to do to protect their dollars. It's our responsibility under Chapter 125 to provide hospitalization and care facilities like that. So I think that at this point, one of the things that we need to do as a commission is get this passed immediately. Get as many providers in county as possible to take some of the burden off. And you and I talked about this the other day. In Jacksonville, they have the potential to turn over a patient to a private provider. So if they get to a call where it's non-emergent, they can call in a non-emergency transport service, take that patient at that point of contact to the hospital, turn the patient over and get that ALS unit back in service, and get our response times to our published rates when we do get to that point.
Sure.
Because one of the answers that I got today was about 10 minutes, and that just didn't set well with me, because I know what can happen in 10 minutes when you have somebody that has a bleeding aortic aneurysm, or a cardiac arrest situation, or a stroke. You can pick any of the top 4 bad ones, and you're dead in 5 to 10 minutes, and you're not going to be able to be resuscitated at that point. So I think that we as a commission need to sit down with staff, come up with goals and objectives. We started talking about a visioning plan, a strategic plan. There was a draft put out. We never published it. We're not working towards it. I think now's the time. And right now, we have very exposed weakness in our healthcare system and in our EMS system as a result of this. And I'd also like to say too, and then I'll yield the floor. I've received complaints regarding the possibility that there might be people brought into Putnam County that might be impacting our healthcare system by the federal government that may be illegal aliens. I've not been able to confirm this, but I would like someone to look into this. I reached out to Colonel Wells. He said he can definitely confirm that it's happened in Tennessee and Louisiana. He doesn't know it here, but if that's happening, this is a burden that's being placed on us that could be exacerbating the problem we're talking about right now.
Okay. I would just like to say that we have been meeting with the administration of the hospital as early as last Thursday. We had a meeting with a conference call with the CEO of the hospital, trying to help assist in this. I mean, this is not just a Putnam County problem. This is a problem across the state of Florida. It's a problem across our country right now. Is our hospitals are filling up. I mean, I mean, that's just the truth behind it. I mean, you go to Flagler right now and they're busy. There's no beds available. You can go to Baptist South, there's no beds available. You can go to Orange Park, there's no beds available. So until we start building hospitals, and you know,
And that's our responsibility.
it's behind times. You know, I mean, it's nothing we can do about it in the immediate future. We're making things available. We met with the medical director last week. We talked about different things such as teledoc in the back of the ambulance. There's kits available. When I've already talked to the administration about it, we're looking at pushing that project forward. where there is options for people besides being transported to the hospital, where they can see a doctor face-to-face on an iPad and they can make decisions. That's already been brought forward. That is in the works right now. If that's the case, and they can see a doctor, they can get a prescription, they can go get it picked up, they can have it delivered, however it does, and then they can see a doctor and says, you don't need to be transported in the next 6 hours. We're going to send you a non-emergency truck to come pick you up. This is the groundwork starting all that stuff. So we are trying to do everything we can do to reduce and reduction of response
My
time.
concern is the emergent part that we're responsible for first. We've got to get those units turned back in service. I don't know what your average turn time is. If it's above 15 or 20 minutes, that may not be a good thing at the hospital, you know, and if you're having to sit there, I can't imagine sitting in a hospital for an hour babysitting a patient that you should have already turned over while somebody else is having an emergency that needs to be dealt with.
Yes, sir.
Good point, Commissioner Ross. Thank you. Mr. Adams, you have the floor.
I like the idea of there being an objective for response time, but I can tell you right now, there are locations in this county where if the person was telepathic sitting in the ambulance and knew there was gonna be a call in 2 minutes, they couldn't get there in 5. So if they were already en route, it just isn't physically possible with our current system. So we have holes in our system from that perspective. But an objective, I think, should be based on those areas first and then work its way down. So if you have an area out there that you know you can't get to for 25 minutes, the objective has to be 25 minutes. And then as we improve our service and our locality reference of people that can respond, or the ability to respond faster, then that number needs to move down. So I think we need to give some sort of number to that, whether it's actually having guys do a practice run to different areas, and we've discussed some of these areas.
Yeah.
So you're aware we're there. And there's some in South Putnam and West Putnam, and there's probably some up in Larry, in your district, up in the northern area there. So unfortunately, that's where we are. We're a geographically very wide dispersed county with a smaller population, and that's part of the hurdles we have to overcome. I love the fact, my question to you, and I just want to make sure I ask it in the public forum, is you feel this, the way it's written, gives you everything you need for flexibility if there's an emergent need for an emergency service, if someone decided to be a provider for that, it allows you to take all tiers into the service system if they choose to come.
Yes,
Right.
sir. I mean, it
Do
gives us
we-
a few more tools for the toolbox.
Yep.
I mean, right now, we have used the one that currently has a COPCN for 911 backup. We have used them in the last few days. I mean, it's been a great thing. So this gives us the opportunity to have potentially more folks coming in here that can provide that service. We have an ALS provider that sits at the hospital to do non-emergency transfers, but they're not licensed to do it in Putnam County right now, but this will fix that. So that if we did have somebody that, you know, it's nothing for us to have 6 inbound ambulances at one time from calls. I mean, this is what it is. I mean, that number will come back down, you know, when we hit a lull. I mean, it happens. I mean, we get busy at times, but we just kind of got to ride the wave and get it down to within a respectable amount. However, I would say that I think we have had a tremendous reduction in response times in the last 10 to 11 months. I can pull those numbers. I guarantee we've been down from 25 minutes. I bet we're getting close to, we have a unit on scene within 10 minutes to tend to, I'd guess say 80 to 90% of our calls. So, I mean, I think we have made drastic improvements of response times in the last 1 year.
And maybe if during the quarterly thing that you present us, maybe if you gave us that chart of it, that would be good for the community to be aware of those
Sure.
numbers.
I can pull it up.
Because I agree. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things from the community about service overall, but they're just physically, you can't get to some of the locations. I mean, it's down in the forest, there's spots you can't get to.
I can turn on the dirt road off Highway 19 and can't get to some of them for 15 minutes.
One thing you mentioned when you were talking was the state of emergency. Now, can you go through that part of what you said again?
Yeah, the governor did a whole state of emergency for the state of Florida back when COVID started 500 days ago.
Yeah.
Our local state of emergency is still in effect. The only thing that does is it still gives us the ability to use companies that are not underneath this. We can do a lot of things underneath state of emergency we can't do that's outside of policy with this stuff. So
Well, it's
gives
not
us
the only thing a
ability
state of
to do
emergency
that.
allows those, and that's not your issue.
Right.
I guess I'd like to get this done as soon as possible, because I don't think we should be in a state of emergency. I think that's, if this is the driver of that I wish this would have came sooner, which isn't neither here nor there. But yeah, we definitely shouldn't be in a state of emergency today, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, I appreciate this conversation. Jay, I appreciate you bringing this to us. In our conversations we had, this is what you need to move this forward. And I just want to make a statement, and with the rural nature of this county, I mean, response times and definitely some of the areas are going to be a lot longer than than in the more rural or developed areas. But one thing that we have now that we didn't have is we've got the right guy in charge to handle these things, to move us forward, to start approving every part of the fire service, the EMS service. And JR, just thank you for coming on board, and what you've done so far has just really been a blessing to this commission and to the county of what you've done with your staff, and we really appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Just one comment.
That's it? That's it?
Mr. Roth?
So I'm obviously in favor of this. I had a frustrating phone call probably close to 8 months ago or so with the medical director for Courtesy Transport. His frustration was that they were not extended the courtesy of being able to operate in Putnam County as an ALS provider. But Century, I believe, was allowed to. I know we're talking about having multiple providers. Is there any reason, is there any threat to us as citizens by, I'm not going to say opening the floodgates, but if somebody applies and they have the capacity and they meet our criteria, is there any reason why we shouldn't have, like, you know, I believe Duval County has, or at one time they had APT, Liberty, Century, ALS worked up there. They had 4 or 5 private providers in county all at the same time. Is there any reason why we wouldn't be able to do that as well? And
I mean, that's this. I mean, absolutely not. It gives us the ability to, if somebody comes in and wants to operate inside Putnam County, it gives us the ability to be able to do that.
what I'm saying is there any threat to our employees or our
No,
system?
I think it very well says it in the very first page that we are the 911 provider for ALS response inside Putnam County. Not saying that we won't give an ALS certificate to somebody that can do an ALS transfer out of the hospital, which is where you're
No,
talking about Century.
I'm going beyond that. I'm saying, is there any reason why we wouldn't be able to allow, so you just said it's not usual to have 6 inbound units. Would it be any detriment to our employees or our system if we allowed some of the ALS providers to pick up emergency calls? So as soon as you know that are y'all using system status management?
No. I mean, we're using our battalion chiefs to listen to what's happening on the radio.
Wow, okay.
There's only one county that I know still uses system status, and that's Volusia.
So if you had something like that, and you could see where your trigger points are. You tee up an ALS private provider, say, our next ALS call, we may need to pass this off to you and get them ready, or as soon as you get one and you know you're overwhelmed, you pass that on and not make that wait. Are we working toward that goal as well, or is there any consideration for that?
That's a lot of data gathered that somebody's putting in a computer program in system status to tell them where the next call is going to be.
No, what I'm saying is,
Operated in system status in Volusia County. I know how it operates.
when you got 6 out of 8 units tied up,
Yeah,
you know you're starting to move your assets around.
correct.
Would it not be prudent to pick the phone up and start calling private providers and say, look, we're starting to get overwhelmed here, and find out who your private providers are and have them respond to the next call?
Yeah, we're currently doing that. I mean, we're doing that with the providers that are already here, saying, hey, we know that we can pick peak hours. We know our peak hours are from about 8:30 in the morning until about 6 p.m., and we're working with them. We call their office and say, hey, do you got any trucks that you can commit today to running backup 911 calls? And they give us the green light. Yep, we're good to go.
Okay.
They're equipped with Putnam County fire rescue radios. Our dispatch center has the ability to get a hold of them, and they can go on a drop of a dime, just like our current trucks.
And the last question, can we use those assets as assets to try to work toward a goal of having quicker response time at that point? If the goal stated was, we'd like to be there within 6 minutes, then knowing that we have these assets available that we can put to work, is that?
Sure, from our end, it sounds
Okay.
great, but I mean, you also got to remember there's a business owner on the other side that's got to make it make business sense for them
understand that.
too. So they're not going to travel they're not going to go cover Johnson until our unit come back to town. So I mean, there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, that we can put together. We're going to make the best and the most efficient system we can with what we're given to work with. So absolutely, we're working there right now.
Good, thank you. And I have one final comment before we go to a motion. I think we have to be very careful of publishing times that we can't commit to, because we have a fiduciary responsibility, and we could find ourselves on the wrong end of a promise that was all we want to do was try to meet a goal, and somebody took it as a promise. So the chair will entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion, we move this forward.
Thank you. Proper motion by
Second.
Commissioner Rawls to approve this. Second by Commissioner Adamsack. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Next is our presentation. We're going to move you just a moment. Sonny, I promised you around 10 I would have you up here. It's 10:01. So why don't you come up and make your presentation real quick? Sorry, guys.
So I wrote down my thoughts.
You'll have to talk right into the microphone and
Okay.
give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Sunny Mulford. My address is 468 High Tide Drive in St. Augustine, Florida, 32080. Okay. And I'm the executive director of Epicure. And so, like I said, I wrote down my thoughts so I don't forget to say anything. So I think there's a lot of speculation about our motivations at Epicure. So I wanted to give you a little bit of the backstory about our origins and our mission. So growing up, I was a child that experienced poverty, homelessness, hunger, and lack of nutrition. So when I saw the documentary Wasted, the story of food waste, in October of 2018, and learned that 30 to 40% of the food we produce in the United States ends up in landfills, and yes, that includes livestock, all while 1 in 6 people are food insecure, I couldn't sit still. So I made my family watch the documentary, and we all agreed that it was unconscionable, that that was the state of how things are with food.
Ms. Sunny,
And yes,
could I get you to put that microphone at an angle so it comes right to your mouth?
is that better?
Yeah, I believe.
Okay. So I made my family watch the documentary, and we agreed that we would all take urgent, immediate, and continuous action to end food waste and fight hunger, which is the mission statement of Epicure. So in December of 2018, we formed a corporation. In February of 2019, we received our nonprofit status. In April of 2019, we secured our first warehouse, and in May of 2019, we did our first food distribution. So since we opened our doors to our first warehouse and distribution just a little over 2 years ago, we have rescued and distributed over 6 million pounds of food and provided an average of 70 pounds of food over 89,000 times to families experiencing need or food insecurity. Of that 6 million pounds of food, 1.2 million pounds have been distributed to 16,920 families in Putnam County in the first half of 2021. The estimated wholesale value of that food is about $1.9 million. So this has all been accomplished by volunteers. Over 14,000 volunteer hours have been logged so far this year by a volunteer base of 990, and that's 275 in Putnam County. These volunteers work in rough conditions. We don't have air conditioning or heat, and we're moving over 400,000 pounds. 10% of that is meat, and I'm going to keep mentioning meat because it's appalling to me that we would raise animals as livestock, kill them, and then throw them away. I mean, it's appalling to me. So, we're moving 400,000 pounds of food a month, and most of it is by pure manpower. It's heavy, hard, exhausting work. And so why do our volunteers show up? It's because they see the amazing quality and the vast quantities of good, nutritious food that, if not for them, would be wasted instead of being put to use, helping our family members, neighbors, friends, and community members. So food rescue goes beyond providing good, healthy, and nutritious food to families. It's helping to move the needle on a serious environmental problem. Annually, food waste is the largest component in landfills and accounts for 10% of all the greenhouse gas emissions. When food decomposes without the benefit of oxygen, it emits methane gas, which is 10 times more harmful to the Earth's atmosphere than our excess CO2 emissions. The 6 million pounds of food our volunteers have helped divert from landfills has prevented 2,640 tons of methane gas from harming our atmosphere. If the methane gas wasn't bad enough, we use approximately 21% of our freshwater resources and 21% of our farmland each year to produce food that is ultimately thrown away. In addition to food rescue and distribution, we at Epicure foster self-reliance and build marketable skills for veterans and Title I school children through cooking classes. We engage senior citizens to teach children to safely prepare meals, provide them with practical life skills, and the self-confidence that comes from real achievement,
while simultaneously connecting generations through a shared purpose and improving the well-being of both the children and their senior citizen mentors. Because food waste happens in all phases of production, from distribution to end use, we are adding a pilot composting program to address the problem of and educate people about food waste at the home level. And because we are a 100% volunteer organization, Epicure's costs are low and its production is efficient. Epicure has been able to return $32 in value to the communities we serve for every $1 we spend. You see in the handout that we're requesting $850,000 to help purchase the warehouse on State Route 17. Our next phase of improvements, or once our next phase of improvements are complete, we will have invested $160,000 in infrastructure, $30,000 in equipment, and $150,000 in operating costs to help over 500 families each week in Putnam County. With those improvements, we will be expanding our services to other agencies and increasing our reach. The goal is to get all other agencies working in food, soup kitchens and food pantries working at their full capacity while decreasing their program costs. And then we seek out underserved areas and begin weekly mobile food pantries, as we do in St. Johns County. Mobile food pantries are where we load up our trucks with tables and tents and food and set up farmers market style free shopping for people. With our resources and the installation of our generator, we will be situated to provide emergency management support for Putnam and all of the surrounding counties. Another note is that we take period poverty very seriously. Food stamps don't buy feminine hygiene products, and if girls don't have them, they can't go to school, and if women don't have them, they can't go to work. Through our humanitarian grant with the Church of the Latter-day Saints, the first order and allocation is included in that handout, and our partner, Feeding Northeast Florida, we will be able to continue to get these supplies out into the community. I feel like we bring a lot to the table for Putnam County, and I feel like we've earned your support so we can continue to serve and expand services to this community. I read the American Rescue Plan qualifying criteria, and we serve the target population, people that are homeless, at risk of homelessness, or have housing instability, by providing eligible support services of free groceries. We do this with zero threshold, no income verification or ID are required, and an environment of dignity and respect for our patrons. And so I've heard some things like that we may be in competition with other people doing food, but the only people we're in competition with are ourselves to do more to help people in need and to help the environment by rescuing more food. And so I'll just end by saying we started kind of doing a petition to get support for this, and I've got 550 signatures here, and that was only just collecting them at our food distributions in the last 2 weeks.
We have 562. There's
There you
two
go.
more.
So, and I know some people mailed them in, but that's all I wanted to say. So just
Thank
hoping you all will support
Appreciate
that.
your comments on that. Mr. Rawls, you have the floor. You have a comment?
Are you aware of the $7.2 million that we received from the federal government for the next budget year?
That's what she's talking about.
That's what I'm talking
Okay.
about, yes.
Okay,
That's
so
what I
we're-
want to have 850 allocated to help us purchase that warehouse.
Okay. So this is strictly about that? All right,
100%, that's all.
got my support.
It
What's that?
doesn't have to come from the recovery. It could come from anywhere if that is deemed not an appropriate use by our consultants. And I know what you read and I read, but, we do, but it could come from anywhere. The funding source is not that's irregardless to you. You need a building to take care of the people of Putnam County.
Yes.
And you have cold storage inside that building now.
Yes.
That you can house meat and stuff. And,
Yes.
when you said that, I kind of listened to Commissioner Turner's analogy about
Popsicle?
no, not about the popsicle, but when the county takes over a piece of property and we don't clean it up. It's the same analogy. If we're killing animals and not eating them, we're not really doing, I don't even want to say that. If we're picking food, if we're, whatever we do and we're throwing it away, then we're really wasting at that
Yes.
point.
You're
And there
throwing
is
away
people
the solution to hunger. I mean,
Yeah.
30 to 40% it's a lot of food, and it's a lot of food. We even struggle sometimes to give away all the food that we get in. So we're constantly looking for new sources and new outlets to distribute the food. I mean, it's a lot of food. And, I invite any of you to come down to our warehouse on a Friday and just see. I mean, we distribute 3 semi-trucks full of food every Friday.
Well, if I go, I see the floor.
We got to get you a turn lane on 17.
I know.
So,
Mr. Rawls, hang on a second. Mr. Turner had his light on, and
I
I'll get
wasn't done- I
Becky.
wasn't actually done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead then. I apologize for,
Um,
I
All
thought
right,
you were done.
So Commissioner Harvey alluded to the fact that there might be a disagreement in the interpretation of the grant. Is that,
No, I didn't say that.
No, he's just saying if they deem that what I'm asking for is inappropriate to spend that money on, that there might be something else, but I don't want to forego any opportunities to, I mean, it's my responsibility to protect everything that we've invested so far and all of, the grants that we've received and the donors that have given money and all the volunteers that have given their time. I mean, it's my responsibility to them to seek out every opportunity I can to make sure that we stay,
So I'll give you my 2
that we
cents
have
worth.
the ability to stay.
I think what you're providing is absolute necessary infrastructure for Putnam County, especially where we are right now and the road that we're on with the massive amount of inflation. I think your cause and your product is going to be more used in the very near future than less. So I think that you're a very important part of our infrastructure component. And I don't think that you were at the meeting that we had last week regarding mental health and substance abuse.
No, I was there.
Okay.
And so that was another thing that I was going to mention is that we are in talks with Flagler Care Connect, and we actually met with the guy in charge of the medical mission here.
Okay.
And we're writing grants right now to convert all of our office spaces into medical clinics. So where we will be doing, and we'll make our office space, we don't use our office space, we all work in the warehouse. Nobody sits in an office there. And so we can make all of that space available. And there's 3 acres there, so there's room to grow. But we can make that a resource center for all of the other agencies to come and educate people about what they do or offer their services directly from that warehouse. So we have the space to do that. And the goal is to, provide whatever we can, any service that's available to the people that are in need.
Well, where I was going is there's a direct correlation between addiction and recovering from addiction and job security, housing security, and food security. That's
Yeah.
three of the major components that are needed. So I personally wouldn't mind if we put all $7.2 million into that effort. We've not made an investment as a commission into that, and that's going to be one of the things that I think we should be looking at. But I applaud you for your efforts. You didn't speak at the forum, so maybe
No.
we're looking to have the next one on the second Thursday at 9 a.m. It'll be a 3-hour meeting. Maybe you could be there and speak to that one as well. But I think it was a good push in the right direction, but we got a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, well, we're already laying the groundwork to do whatever we can. Like I
Right.
said, we've got Flagler Care Connect behind us, and they're just waiting for us to write the grant for that. And I'm waiting on some bids to come in, because we'll be putting in a commercial kitchen so that we can, have a food pharmacy and start addressing things like diabetes and heart disease and the way that food can be medicine to treat those, and then provide the groceries for free. Because food stamps, if you're on a limited budget and you've got $100 or $50 or whatever for groceries for the week, you're going to go buy the cheapest thing that you can get to make your dollar stretch the week, and that is always the processed food. So you're not going to go spend your $5 on a tomato. But we get pallets of tomatoes, pallets of corn, pallets of watermelon, all these things, healthy, good food that we can give to people for free.
Very cool. Thank you.
You yield the floor?
Yep.
Mr. Turner?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So all we're doing today is we're taking the presentation,
That's
but
all.
we're not doing anything else.
Right. Correct.
Okay, well, I'll hold my comments until we actually know what we can use those funds for instead of sitting here speculating today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Sunny, and
Okay.
for Mr. Adamczyk?
Yeah, I just want to say, I have volunteered at your place a couple times, so I appreciate everything that you're doing, and it is a lot of hard work, and I'm amazed by the effort that the people that go there do. I like the idea of using the ARPA funds for this type project. I'd like it to be a bigger scope, and you're kind of alluding to that your plans are a bigger scope. So it's one step removed from the perfect use of the money, which is distributing it to the people directly. So I'm all for this if it looks right and feels right at the time that you get your final presentation, your goals and stuff. So thank you.
Well, this is kind of my final presentation, so it's just whether or not it falls into what you guys decide the the wording of those funds can be used for, so.
Thank you, and I think you planted a great seed today.
Okay.
And again, we'll go forward at this. We are going to have a workshop, not have to, we are going to have a workshop based on the fact when this money gets here, of what we can and can't do with it,
Okay.
and the needs that are out there in our community. So we
Okay.
have 2 years of $14.4 million, 7.2 and 7.2, and truly, I think it would be a great asset for our community. Thank you very much for
Okay.
coming. We appreciate it.
Thank
Is there
you.
anybody else that's with you that wants to speak or just wave in support? I know there's 2 lovely ladies back there, couple gentlemen over here.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so thank you very much. And thank you for the work that you really do. I know it's important for our community, so.
Thank
yeah.
you. And did you want these signatures, or do you want me to keep them?
She's going to grab them from you
Okay.
because you've alluded to them, so they'll become part of public record now.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Next presentation will be our Putnam County Chamber of Commerce, Dana Jones. Sam, come on up. Sam and I have been out quite a bit here lately, haven't we?
Good morning.
Good
Dana
morning.
Jones, Putnam County Chamber. Jacob showed me exactly how to start, so we'll see if I'm smart enough to
Well,
actually
Jacob's
remember.
back there if you have a
Oh, that's
problem.
good. I wanted to start a little different this morning. Most of our local residents don't get a chance to see some of the tourism marketing we do. So we have a short 30-second commercial that we run national television, and then a short 15-second video that we run on Facebook. I'm not used to working without a mouse either. There's no volume.
I don't think your sound is working.
Well, it's not my device, so let's see.
Aw, I know who that is. I know them.
Yeah, the volume's all the way at 100.
Jacob's on his way. You know, Dana, while you're saying that, there was a vacation Bible school program a few years back, and I'm sitting at church going, I know where that's at, and it was Ravine Gardens. The company came from out west and shot it at the Ravine Gardens. It was kind of neat.
Could you start it?
You got the sound?
Crowds were never our thing anyway in Putnam County. Call us crazy, but we prefer social distancing. After all, when you have the water, the wind, and the beautiful weather at your disposal, you have everything you need to enjoy a much-needed vacation or just a long weekend in as safe a way as possible. Get out and get a sense of the real Florida. Explore Putnam County.
That was good.
Obviously, we're trying to get into the safe outdoor vacation amenities that we have so many of here and to offer folks. I've got one little short one that is featured on a lot of our digital campaigns that are running.
Get a sense of old Florida and explore Putnam County.
That looked like John C. Alfie jumping out of the plane. Is that him?
Could have been.
Got a parachute on.
I just wanted a different way to start because a year ago I kind of came to give a little overview and it started off the same weird way because, you know, it's just been a strange year. We're all experiencing that with the pandemic and we're not out of it yet. And obviously it does have some impacts. So since October, we have been able to award grants for approximately 30 different events, activities, some of which, of course, were canceled or rescheduled. Most of the ones that we have had or will have before the end of September include 3 bass tournaments, 5 sporting events, which is baseball, basketball, and even pickleball, numerous golf tournaments, and some cultural events. Funds were also awarded to 2 other festivals that were canceled or rescheduled. The 2 baseball tournaments alone did attract over 300 competitors, all from a distance away, to put all the participants in our hotels. 2 of the larger golf tournaments also attracted more than 300 participants that ended up with direct expenditures reported of just over $200,000. And of course, a lot of economic impact rollover as well. Just a brief outlook for what we have ahead this fall. We do have currently scheduled the MLF FLW tournament in October, which will be 360 anglers. In November, we have the Palatka PAL boxing, state boxing tournament, which is usually 400 to 500 participants coming into our market. And in December, we have the Jarvis Williams Holiday Basketball event. Last year, they had 16 teams. Again, 15 people per team, adding over 200 people into our market, not counting parents and other families. As you also know, Bassmaster Elite will return here in February of 2022. Hopefully, we will not have the same COVID restrictions that we had this past year when we hosted them, so we can get more sponsor activation and more fans in our market. I don't know if y'all saw the news release, but Dovetail Games, if you've never heard of them, you're probably not a video gamer, and I'm not, so I'd never heard of them. But they have recently announced they are rolling out a 2022 Bassmaster fishing game. And there's a lot of excitement built around it. And Dovetail followed Bassmaster tournaments for the whole year of 19 and 20 and selected 8 markets to feature in this new video game that's soon to be released. And Putnam County and the St. Johns River is one of those places chosen. So we're going to be featured in a Bassmaster fishing game for millions and millions of gamers around the world to open us up to a new market. So the bed tax revenues are very interesting. Last year I told you we ended up having a good year because we had a strong first quarter and then a weak finish due to the pandemic. So this year I'm here to tell you it's the opposite. We had a weak first quarter due to the pandemic, but it has been ramping up. And so we're currently looking right around a 6% increase of our last good year, which was 19 to 20, which is despite the pandemic, I think just a real good sign. I think a lot of our rooms currently that are making the last 4 or 5 months in this year really strong are we have so many workers at Seminole, Still Summit, Georgia Pacific, and FPL. So we have a lot of our projects that are filling those hotel rooms and adding to those bed tax numbers. Obviously, events are still moving around, moving bits and pieces depending on the current environment of the pandemic. We also, I just showed you the video for one of the digital campaigns. We also have some static display ads. I'll hand one for y'all to pass down when Sam starts. We continue to revise, update, and put out our marketing materials, which can be found at the Visitor Center, in our lobby, and various hotels and other locations around the county. I just want to thank everybody, for what you do for tourism. Everybody has a big part in it, and I think to see that we have returned to the same bed tax revenues that we were enjoying before the pandemic is awesome. The pandemic year was just a blip at just barely 11% decrease. And as most of y'all know, the bed tax revenues in the last 6 years have increased 100%. So, I think tourism is doing well. And despite whatever is ahead of us, we do have some good events lined up.
Dana, before you leave, Commissioner Ross has a comment.
Yes, sir.
What is the average occupancy rate for hotels right now?
I think right now they're running about 70%. Some are, it's interesting, some are at almost 100 because of their proximity to Seminole, like Crystal Cove might be one of those experiencing a higher occupancy rate than maybe an East Palatka facility.
All right, and Do you know how many contractors are staying in these hotels right now?
I do not. It is very hard to collect data from the individual hotels. I am working with one of our larger ones that's going to try and pull me some zip code information and other kinds of things that she can give me to try and assimilate that data.
I would think they just see where they're coming from and be able to tell them, all right.
Yeah.
So looking at the video, I didn't see any bicycling.
It's in one of our 3 that we run. It wasn't in the one I showed you. If you go to our website, there's 3 on the bottom. One of them has a bicycle
So
on the...
you mentioned your website, and I've made this clear since before I got elected. It's actually perfect where you froze that video. It says Florida's Putnam County Chamber of Commerce. So why, and then on the very bottom, it says funded by Putnam County Tourist Development Council. Why would it not say Putnam County's Tourist Development Council have our logo on it and not the logo of your company? Because you're really taking our tax dollars and promoting the Chamber of Commerce ahead of the people that are actually paying your business to be in business. And I personally like to see that flipped around to where the citizens of Putnam County has a presence, not on the Chamber's website, but on our own website. You know, it's always irked me that I have to go to Putnam County Chamber of Commerce and then I got to click on economic development to see what economic development we have, or click on tourist development to see what tourist development efforts are being put forward. But at the same time, I have to go to a private business to get there, and we're the ones that are funding that business. So I'd like to see you guys take a different approach to that. That's just my request. But I think that right now it's just too self-promoting for the chamber and not for the citizens, which is really us.
I understand your question. The reason it's done that way is because the tourism information obviously is on the chamber page, because we are the tourism agency on your behalf. I will tell you, though, we are looking forward to a different approach, that the URL or web address will be visit putnamcountyfl.com. So it'll be a more generic than a Putnam County Chamber drive from our marketing efforts.
So will
to your point,
Putnam County Economic Development and Tourist Development will have their own websites now?
it will be probably a website within a website. It'll have its own URL. So if you land on it, you will see the tourism information only.
With Flagler County, what I like about their Department of Economic Opportunity, when you click on Flagler County and you look at their economic development, they have their own published data. It's separate, even though it's done by the county. They don't have an outside agent. You know, we're different. Mm-hmm. Very few counties, I don't even think 3 counties in Florida do business the way we do business. But what's concerning to me is we give so many tax dollars to you guys. We give you about 70 to 75% of your operating revenue annually. You guys couldn't support yourselves if you had to on what you bring in for membership. And yet, the citizens don't have their own website.
Mr. Rawls, let's keep it to the topic of the tourist.
That's where I'm going, is the citizens don't have their own website. At the beginning and the end of this thing, it starts off with the Chamber of Commerce, and it ends literally with Florida's Putnam County Chamber of Commerce. I really think it should just say Florida's Putnam County, and then below that, brought to you by the Tourist Development Council, not promoting your business, because you're taking our tax dollars to promote your business, not promoting us. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Rawls. Mr. Adams.
So Dana, I just want to say, I do appreciate your efforts. I think you're involved in a lot in the county. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Not based on you personally, just based on the fact that I don't see how you can focus on any one thing with all the different things you're involved in. How many people do we have in the TDC as employees under TDC, so to speak, under the charter? I guess
we have one full-time tourism director, and then we have occasional staff that has hours in tourism.
Okay. And what's your role in the TDC?
I'm a TDC coordinator.
Okay. And what's your role in the EDC?
I'm just the Chamber of Commerce president, and we have the contract to do and perform economic development services on your behalf.
And then recently you had mentioned to me about the Putnam County Development Authority. You have a role in that as well?
Well, I'm the director of that. They don't really have any employees.
No, I'm asking about your role. I mean,
I'm the
this is what I'm saying.
executive director, I keep their
You're trying to do all
paperwork.
these hats that are super important hats.
That's a very minimal job. It's putting together an agenda for them to meet.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe it shouldn't be minimal, I guess is my point, for that particular one, but that's not the point of what I'm trying to say. So I appreciate that you're trying to do all these different things. I think that there needs to be a way that we find other people to augment that, so you can focus on your chamber activities and other people do these other activities like Sam's doing for the EDC. I'm not gonna go too far, because at some point I'm gonna request a meeting with you and then with Sam, just so we can go through some of my questions.
Great.
But are you working with it from the TDC perspective? Because when we had the meeting about the Bargeport, the Putnam County Development Authority, you had mentioned to me, owns property down the road from the barge, from the port, from our current port, which is very small, and we're talking about dredging that current port. Do we not think that maybe partnering with the Development Authority from the cruise ship standpoint, because that's part of tourism, to utilize that property potentially, because that has an inlet to the river and has more frontage and a larger footprint, is that a possibility to the TDC to work with the Development Authority to maybe?
I think the Development Authority will probably be discussing the whole Bargeport,
Okay.
in a meeting, since it's getting a lot of attention.
I'm asking you in your role with the TDC.
I'm not a voting member. I mean, I put things on the agenda for them. I'm
Okay.
sure they would discuss supporting that or any other kind of items brought before
And
them.
I guess you're saying you're not a voting member, but you're an influencing member, because when you read the minutes of the TDC, Miss Julie's name is never mentioned in the minutes, it's your name. So to say you're not a voting member, you are the influencer of the conversation when you read the minutes of the TDC, because it is your
I
name.
facilitate, yes.
Wait, we're talking two different
Getting there
things.
from here.
What do you mean? We're talking about
Development
TDC,
Authority and
correct?
TDC. Right now, your question
I'm
is
asking
on-
if they would partner. She answered that question. Now I'm asking her another question.
Thank you.
Her answer was yes, that at some point that'll probably happen. So I guess what is the question you have?
My question, I thought you were splitting, going back from TDC to Development Authority. And I think
No.
the answer was Development Authority is willing to talk about anything to increase support
Sure.
on anything that they own out there, or willing to own, or willing to trade, or whatever they can to promote Putnam County. Is that what I'm
Okay.
hearing?
Cool.
I'm not a voting member of them either, but when I put their agenda out,
That's
some
part
of your
their-
guys are on there.
That's
so.
part of their process in
Yes.
life. So.
So I guess my concern is, I don't know, I just think you're wearing way too many hats and we need to focus other people on some activities, but that's besides the point. The TDC is supposed to have a TDC plan. Where does that plan exist?
A tourism plan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Where is
That's-
it?
That component's on our website as well, under our strategic plan.
Okay, I couldn't find it, but if you could send me a link to that, that'd be great.
Sure.
And how often do we update that?
Every year, we look at it and update it,
Okay.
review it as necessary.
How often do you update the commission,
The TDC
this
council.
commission, our Board of County Commissioners, via your contract, we're supposed to get a quarterly update.
Yeah, that's done quarterly. It's a written report quarterly.
Where do we get that written report?
I submit it to administration.
Do we file that online or something? I just haven't been able to find this, so I'm just asking.
I believe that's one of the reports you asked Mr. Suggs to pull for you, and I
Yeah,
believe he
haven't
put
got it
up
yet.
multiple ones on the website.
Okay,
So I'll follow up with Mr. Suggs and make sure you get the information.
okay.
I'm happy to meet anytime.
Yeah, if you could send me the reports, that'd be cool. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Rawls.
I'm at your website, and I've never seen a tourist development plan. I've asked for it twice from staff and never received it. I'm at your website now, and it's
It's
not
under
on
the
here. Can you
strategic plan, under the chamber.
do what?
Under the chamber, it's under the strategic plan.
So now you're going to my original point that I have to go to the chamber, I have to go to a private business entity to look for a function that actually belongs to public citizens. And I don't know that anybody would be savvy enough if they were looking to see what the tourist development plan for Putnam County is, if they were looking to move a business here that might be tourist related or move here because of tourism. I don't know that they would want to or even think about looking at the Chamber of Commerce's website. So I've got a lot of concerns, and you really threw me back on my heels when you said that I guess there's been some discussion about the Economic Development Council or agency that you had is now thinking about doing something on Port Authority property.
No, so that's not at all what I said.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
Yes,
So,
sir.
is there any work being done right now by the EDA regarding the Port Authority?
No, sir. My comment was that the Putnam County Development Authority, which is an independent agency,
That's right.
owns property, most of the north side of the Bargeport.
Right.
And that entity would probably enjoy conversations helping the county to further their project at the Bargeport.
Okay. 'Cause I-
Assumption on my part, but I feel confident.
I've always said, there's a lot of backdoor politics that get done in Putnam County. This has just really had my hair raising right there when I misunderstood you, I apologize, but.
That's okay.
So back to the.
That's why
back
I'm
the-
here,
if you-
to
if
clear
you-
things
If you
up.
could, so now I go to I'm on the main page. Where do I find the tourist development plan under the chamber?
Should be something like governance, maybe.
It says membership, about, and advocacy.
All right, let's move.
I'll have to
forward.
send you the link. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at it.
Information.
And it's on the chamber page
Dana,
again.
we appreciate you coming, and I don't want to have these moments where you're on trial here. That's not what this is about.
That's fine. But I do want to make one thing clear. The Chamber of Commerce is the tourism agency for the chamber, and that's why their stuff is on our page. And a lot of communities have that, and a lot of visitors do rely on chamber information. Some communities that have CBBs and are larger than us have different setups. That's just ours.
Do you think most communities utilize their chamber as their agent? Do most
Jeff, I
counties
think we've
utilize
already
their chamber as
established
their
that.
I
agent?
said
You said
some, I
that-
didn't
Right.
know the most.
It's very, very, very few, actually, in the state of Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I
Okay.
object.
Okay,
who's
no,
got the
I've
floor?
got this. Okay, thank you. Mr. Adamzak?
So Dana, we're carrying forward, I think, $1.3 million in TDC in the next year's budget, according to what we have. What is that? I mean, I guess we're at the precipice where we're growing and where we have the opportunity to seize as much tourism as possible. And we need to utilize any funds we have towards the TDC as we get them,
Right.
in my opinion. So it seems like every year we're carrying over $1 million over the last few years, $1 million plus this time. Why are we not using this money, or is it because we're too restrictive on you for its usage, or what's the reason why it's not being utilized?
I'm going to try and make that a short story instead of a long story, but basically, we being the Tourist Development Council and me being the TDC coordinator, we were given a budget number based on bed tax collections, and that's what we dealt with. And then a couple of years ago, it was told to us that we have that amount of money that was in the funds, and that the TDC needed to budget it appropriately. So at that point in time, we budgeted, and I think then maybe it was around 900,000 to $1 million. We budgeted the year of reserves at like 480,000. You always want to have reserves. And then the way the TDC historically was done is you're granting money ahead of collections. So what we have in there currently is a year of reserves. I don't know what it will grow to from carryover from COVID, but last budget year, for instance, probably over 200 to 240,000 rolled back into the tourism fund, which again is, paid by the bed tax and goes not into the general fund, but the tourism fund where that.
What's the purpose of reserves for a tourist development council?
Just in case there's a catastrophic event where your hotels aren't operational, I think in Daytona, they had a, massive, hurricane event, so their hotel rooms were out, but you could still function and give awards and have grants and market your community.
Okay, so the purpose of that 1.3 million is a year's worth of reserves.
No, just 500. We're constantly exploring in the last 2 years.
And I'm not asking this to be a gotcha. I'm asking it because I have some ideas of how to use that
We'd
money.
like that, and we're in the exploration of that as well, because there are enough funds to do something larger.
Right.
We're doing an assessment with the Florida Sports Foundation to come review our community and see what kind of, how we can maybe increase sports tourism. That's just one of the many angles. So any ideas would be welcome.
So one of the things that's allowed in the state statute is a convention center, or that type of building. So there is capital expenditures that the TDC can do. That's one of the ones that is in the state statute. So is there a potential to maybe meet with the Fair Board and with what they're doing to want to build a building, maybe make that a bigger project to where we could have a convention center, fairgrounds type thing with maybe half of that money that you have? And I mean, I don't know, because there's different pockets. I don't know what pocket of the 40%, 10% that 1.3 million is committed from. But I think it would behoove this county at this point in our growth to do one big project that's centralized that fits the needs of both Convention Bureau, TDC, the fairgrounds, that maybe that, if that could be done. But I'd like to see if we could look into something like that.
I think before I would suggest that we go forward on anything, you run it by the county attorney to make sure it is a valuable idea in use, so we don't
I would
waste
hope
time.
the TDC would do that, but okay, we can do that.
Well, I mean, reading statutes kind of tricky.
Lawyer
It's
don't
kind of above my pay grade. I mean, I try and understand it really well, but I'm not perfect.
Okay, well, I'll run it by them, but it's something if you guys could look into and maybe contact the Fair Board in the meantime, that'd be fantastic. And another option, a smaller one, would be like the Flora Home, where they're looking for funding to do their small building there. And again, that could be a tourist location if they change the name of it slightly. I think she's gonna reach out to you if that's a possibility for funding.
We
whether
already
it's-
did. We already
Okay.
took care of it.
Yeah, so just wanna let you know that as well. And I would support something like that as well, so.
Okay,
Mr. Turner?
like I said, any ideas, send them to me.
First off, I'd like to say it's my understanding the lawyer made the determination on the bike paths and the trails and what have you that we couldn't use TDC money for that. So I don't know if it would be different about a bike trail head or whatever, I don't know. I understand, but our attorney said no, so I know you know more, I know that you know more than him, but that's what he said. Dana, I'd like to say I appreciate you coming here today and giving us this update. I truly do, knowing that no matter what you said or what you did, you were gonna get attacked by two of the commissioners on this board. So I do appreciate you coming forward and trying to give us the best shot at a true and update that you can. So,
Try to shut me down if I say something out of line.
Stop, Mr. Rawls. We got,
Right.
Mr. Turner has the floor. You'll have the floor in a moment.
Stop me, but not him. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking out loud.
you go ahead.
No, we're not going to do that. Okay, you have the
But
floor.
that's all I want to say is I appreciated it, and I think the attorney is looking at several issues of things that have been requested. And if you have something, Commissioner Adams-Ack, I think you're allowed to just ask him. She doesn't have the authority to go ask our attorney to do anything. You have to do that as a commissioner.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rawls.
All right, so
Then we're going to move on.
I think Commissioner Turner may have addressed the question, but in a different way. So you've been approached by folks from the Waterways and Trails Committee on marketing Putnam County for waterways and trails. Is it your assertion that you believe that that would be inappropriate to market, or can we use them? Can we use the TDC dollars for marketing bicycle trails, paddling trails?
Absolutely, and I
Okay.
use that money to
Okay.
market
Okay,
those
so
things.
can you bring us up to speed then, because I know that you've been approached by several members of the Waterways and Trails Committee regarding use of TDC funds and where we are today on that?
They have come to see me about using the funds for maintenance and construction of trails. When they came to see me,
Okay,
they did.
okay, so.
And I do share with them our
Mr. Rawls, let her
marketing, just like
answer.
this is clearly marketing our paddling trails.
So there's been no discussion about marketing on the Waterways and Trail side?
I have, you mean like what we're currently doing, like this display ad that
No, I mean, waypoint finding, signage, stuff like that, and then also brochures. Has there been any discussion from, if not, I'll get in touch with the folks and have them come talk to you, but my understanding was they were talking to you about leveraging some of the funds from TDC to be able to help sponsor events that were bicycle and paddling related. And then
we absolutely are doing that. And we're printing the Bartram trails and the bicycle trail brochures, and we're paying for that with your tourist dollars.
Okay.
Can I bring this in for a landing, please? I mean, all people have to do is apply. The Floor Home Project, the lady applied for that. You sent her application the other day. People just need to apply for those funds. And we do have to keep some money for large projects. We know that. We have to keep some money for down economy. We know that. And still fund, but everybody just needs to apply. And from my last time being on the TDC as chair to this time, we're seeing a lot more applications.
Yes, we are.
So I'm glad that people are out there trying to promote Putnam County, so I appreciate it. Dana, Sam's next on the agenda, then we're going to take a break, okay?
Okay, I do want to tell you, we've got something really good coming out soon, though, and I'll demonstrate that probably in 2 months, and all you will like it.
Look forward to it. Thank you. Sam, come up, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. It is my honor to present to you today some of the initiatives we're working on from an economic development standpoint. It is my first, so I ask that you please take it easy on me. We are currently working with 4 active prospective clients, which collectively could bring over 500 new jobs to the county should they come to fruition. We currently continue to make a vast amount of business retention and expansion visits with local companies to assess needs and continuing facing the issues that's truly confronting them in doing business here in Putnam County. The most common issue, as you would guess, is finding qualified candidates to fill jobs. Of those contacted of those BRE visits, over 80% were actively adding workforce or plan to within the next 12 months. We are proactively and aggressively marketing Putnam County to recruit new businesses. We've had a half-page ad in the June edition of the Florida Trend magazine, which I'm going to pass to you in a minute. We also, I'm very proud of this, have a full-page ad in the much wider distributed Site Selection magazine. And I will pass this with your permission to you so you can see. You're welcome.
Yeah, we're raising that up.
Okay, moving on. I've met with the new EOC, Emergency Operations Director, and establishing some groundwork and some relationship there when, and I repeat, when ESF 18 is activated. I enjoyed very much taking part of the Bargeport meeting a few weeks back, and we're very happy to offer our assistance in order to move that project forward. Working on some numerous small business and development activities. We have a new rep for the Small Business Development Center at the University of North Florida, working with him directly with some of those issues in small business. I've had the sincere pleasure to present both to the morning and noon Rotary groups recently, engaging the community in economic development activities, also engaging with the city of Palaca for some local and concentrated economic development purposes, including some very interesting downtown improvements. Regularly updating my site inventory database while responding to numerous requests for information from firms looking to locate here in Putnam County. I have to remind you, most of our qualified leads come from Jax USA, Enterprise Florida, and the North Florida Economic Development Partnership. One example of this is Project MO, M-O, which could result in over 200 jobs and over $1 billion in capital investment should it come to fruition. As in most projects, I need you to be aware, we are competing with other regions and states, and it does abide by confidentiality. We continue to meet with federal, state, and local officials to discuss the broadband initiatives. Very excited about this. We are optimistic, gentlemen, that the Putnam County will be better served in the future in terms of broadband. We also discuss the various issues that affect economic development with those federal, state, and local officials, including workforce and infrastructure needs. Wrapping up, we are actively involved in representing Putnam County in multiple regional efforts, Jax USA Partnership, Enterprise Florida, I mentioned NAFADP, Florida Department of Economic Development, DEO, excuse me, Florida Economic Development Council, FPL, Florida Power and Light Economic Development, and CSX. Met with a gentleman from CSX Transportation in terms of economic development. Very much enjoyed that. To finalize, just some really short key points for Putnam County, some positive notes. Housing permits have increased over 44% in the last 12 months. A lot of homes being built. Very thankful for that. Median household income is steadily on the rise. Increase over 2,300 jobs year over year from this time last year. Poverty rate is coming down, and these are, of course, I need to source the Florida Chamber scorecard where I get this data. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for your partnership and your support. I cannot do this. We cannot do this alone. We need to work as a team to live, grow, and work here in Putnam County to make it the best place in the country and the world. And I thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Rawls, you have the floor.
All right, so I'm going to go in reverse orders. You addressed the AMI. What is the AMI in Putnam County right now?
I'm sorry, the what?
Average median income.
Average median income, I'll have to get that back to you. I don't have that on me.
Okay. So do you know what the average house cost is in Putnam County year over year?
Year over year, I know the house cost has risen, and it's risen substantially, but I will get that concrete data to you as well. Absolutely.
All right. So I was contacted by a couple people that, one that used to work for Georgia Pacific that recently retired, and then one that currently works for Georgia Pacific. And there's a concern in the money that we gave them back that their jobs year over year over the past years have actually decreased and not increased. And then I got a copy of the performance grant. Do you have anything to do with calculating their net job increases and in paying back that money to Georgia Pacific and that grant?
Specifically as it deals with Georgia Pacific.
Correct.
No, I do not, but I am scheduled to meet with one of the individuals from GP who I met at Rotary, believe it or not, and I'm sure we'll discuss those measures.
So as an economic development coordinator, you weren't involved in this, the money that we just gave back to Georgia Pacific, you didn't review the data that came from GP?
No, sir, I
Specific
was
to the
unaware of
job
that.
creation or loss, correct?
Correct, I was unaware of that.
So what I would like from you as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
Is I would like you to go back the past 4 years with Georgia Pacific, and I would like a total accounting of their positions that would be used to measure that grant, and let's see if we're actually getting the bang for the buck that we're expecting, because if what I'm hearing is correct and they're actually losing jobs, then we're losing money for no reason. We shouldn't be giving that money back.
Okay, just to reiterate, Mr. Chairman, if I may, you want me to go back 4 years from the dollars that are giving back to Georgia Pacific?
The number, so I have a copy of the grant. If you want to get with me this afternoon, I'll
That'd be
forward
great.
you a copy of the grant.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, he doesn't have the authority to
Yeah, that's
direct
an
this
audit.
man to go
That's
do
an-
that.
that's
He
an
does
audit.
not.
Right.
Well, he's our economic development coordinator. He's our agent.
You don't have the authority as
Mr.
an
Turner,
individual to
Mr.
make that
Turner.
happen.
Okay.
Well, as a citizen, I'll
Okay.
make the request.
Okay?
I
And I
wouldn't
don't-
think we would have
Hang on, we
access.
need to
Once
I don't know why I wouldn't have the authority,
Project
but
Purple was completed, which is the Georgia Pacific plant, that agreement was made between
The
this
Board of County
board
Commissioners.
and Georgia Pacific,
Georgia
not
Pacific.
us.
That's right.
So
so who
just like
measures
True
the
Trust,
performance of the grant?
Someone within the county
I said it's not y'all.
administration,
Okay, that's all.
as well as with True Trust
That was-
and others that have been given, not us.
That was my question. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I'm sorry,
Y'all-
he's
y'all are-
new, so-
Y'all are out. Y'all are out. I got
It's
it.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. You mentioned the Bargeport project.
Yes, sir.
What is your definition of the Bargeport project right now, as you see it?
I think there's a lot of growth potential there, I really do, both from tourism and economic development standpoint, as I mentioned here at the workshop that we had. It's going to give two sides. It's going to give, of course, the side of growth and prosperity. It's also going to give a side for me to be able to attract.
What is the project?
What is the project? The
If I had a
Bargeport-
project to mow a lawn, my project is to cut the grass. So what
Oh,
is the project?
The project is to, forgive me if I'm speaking offline, but it's to deepen
Dredge
the
the
pore.
pore?
Dredge the
Okay.
pore, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
So that was just, your comments were strictly related to.
Yes, sir.
Good. All right.
Yes, sir. Mhm.
What challenges are our businesses facing in Putnam County right now?
Primarily staffing, number one.
Okay.
I don't have to tell you, there's help on us everywhere, and I think that as we continue to work that initiative through workforce training, I think there's going to be a lot of potential to rebound from that. Now, we're not alone on that island. It's the same almost everywhere. So we're going to be working diligently to recover from that.
And what workforce training do you see happening in Putnam County right now?
I say there's a variety of measures through St. John's River State College, scheduling through them, Career Source Northeast Florida, working with them in the terms of working to get folks back to work and get them motivated to go back to work.
Okay. How many businesses are there in Putnam County right now?
Total on Sunbiz, I would have to get that number back to you to be most accurate.
Okay. If you could get back to that.
Yes, sir.
How many business contacts do you have on a weekly basis? You said that you're reaching out to the businesses,
BRE.
talking with them, and
I try to average between 12 and 15 per week, just to make sure I'm staying in touch. And that's going to go up and down. The summertime, fewer are available, on vacation, you name it. But I try to average between a dozen and 15 per week.
what would you say is going to be the direct impact of this $15 an hour minimum wage that we're facing?
Yeah.
On
Don't know
the
a lot about
businesses.
that, but that certainly is going to impact, yes. I mean, it definitely will have. you know, I'm a very positive guy, and I think that overall, no matter what comes down the pike, there's nothing we cannot overcome. And so if that's one of them, let's go, let's beat it.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
I believe Mr. Adams X next. Jacob, my screen up here is messed up. If you come up here and look at it real quick.
Sam, I want to say I appreciate the energy you bring to this and the fact that you're available and you come to all these different meetings and you show up. That's fantastic. So,
Yes, sir.
I guess my question is more for the outskirts of Palatka. Where are we at with, I know part of the EDC, you guys identify future properties and prospect properties, like you're saying, that advertise out to businesses that may want to come in.
Yes, sir.
Where are we at with regards to West Putnam, South Putnam? I mean, we're doing all this infrastructure. We got the state finally convinced to do 4 lanes into both ends. And, you know, part of the goal of that and part of when they proposed State Road 20 was it's going to be 15 new businesses in the interlock. And it didn't mention the fact that they tore down 12 businesses to build it.
32.
32. So what is your role in identifying the 32 businesses, bringing in 32 businesses? The meeting I went to with the DOT said 15, just so you know. So what is the role of the EDC and what are we doing today? Because that's projects to be done in 2 years to start ramping that up to get it coming.
Absolutely.
On the way out of that.
With the site inventory database, we're going to proactively promote each and every site within the county equally. Specifically when it comes to some of the sites along State Road 20, is that the road you're speaking of?
Yeah,
Whiting
for me,
Fortines,
I would
20.
assume Bill would want to know in the South.
You know, I'm able to highlight that in the description of the sites. It allows me to put, okay, opportunity zone or whatever the case may be in terms of what promotes and what's specifically acknowledgeable for that particular site. So the various sites in that district, I'm able to highlight the fact that it's within what, you know, what we notoriously call an intrastate. So State Road 20, 17, whatnot, that runs 4 lanes from 95 to I-75.
Do we have properties identified like that already?
Yes, sir, absolutely. We have, it's in the rural context towards, in fact, working on one project currently in the western part direction. But it's very interesting to know that there's a lot of growth opportunity. And yes, I'm taking full advantage of it and promoting it equally as such across the county. Absolutely. Both to mention Crescent City as well. Yes. Oops, sorry.
I just wanted to add one comment. And just yesterday, we were looking at a piece of property that's zoned industrial out on 315. So we're trying to, like he said, identify exactly where these are. And he's working from actually a huge book of inventory. So all we know is it's zoned industrial and who the owner is, but not if they're willing to sell it. So he's got some homework to do on quite a few of the parcels. But zoning is one of the bigger barriers to some of the outlying areas and even the Palatka proper. There's not enough industrial zoned properties in some locations. So master planning of zoning is something that we look forward to working with all of our municipalities and you guys on. Thank you. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Dana.
All right.
Thank you. Dana to the rescue.
You done, Mr. Adams?
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
All right, let me clean up something when I mentioned 32. That, from the start of Highway 20, many years ago, a lot of Interlaken was completely wiped out. Businesses were moved that were not supposed to, well, they were promised if they moved, they could stay, and they moved and they couldn't stay. So I'm talking a total of 32 from many years ago, from phase 1 to phase 2 and now phase 3. So that's, but I am optimistic because I will tell you that as people move in, businesses start to develop because of needs of the people that are moving in that area. So it's really encouraging to see that happen all throughout the county. Mr. Rawls, you have the floor, sir.
How many sites are in Putnam County on the thing you were talking about?
Our site inventory is between 35 and 40 total.
In Putnam County?
Yes, sir. And that's across different GIS sites, not just one. We have several work there, NFEDP, JAX USA, and then, of course, our website.
I went to your website and I clicked on sites, and
Yes.
it actually doesn't show that many.
You should see, what, 7 or 8 on there
Right.
currently, right?
Yeah, it shows the whole region, actually, and then I guess if you scroll down, but yeah, there's not many in Putnam, and that's why I was wondering if there's a way for us to focus on Putnam, so when I click on this, if I'm looking for a site in Putnam, I don't see 3345 Highway 27, wherever that is. That's on the other coast of Florida, basically.
I see. Yeah, it might be a link issue, but when I go through there, I can drill down specifically to Putnam County. But
Okay.
I'm sure we can go over those measures offline.
And then the answer to the question I asked you earlier, and I was a little bit surprised that you couldn't answer the question. We've had between a 25 and 30% increase in our home values year over year. Our median income is probably going to be north of 43,000 right now, but I would think that those would be numbers that would just roll off the tip of your tongue. So when you're talking to a potential investor and they ask these questions, you're able to immediately trigger these answers. I sent an investor the other day an email and let him know that a home sale that recently happened that was built by Habitat for Humanity's right over here on Westover sold for $174,000, which equates to over $130 a square foot. Now, I'm trying to attract investors to Putnam County as well.
Absolutely.
As a citizen or as a commissioner, not because I'm an economic development person, but one of the ways that I did this was I said, by the way, here's you a comp you can use for your development. And his answer was, wow.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to invest yourself in that. And I got my information from the Northeast Florida Realtors Association. I take a look at, they update Putnam County, and they also not only update Putnam County holistically, but they do it by region. So you have, the north, you have the south, the west. So we can you can look at Putnam County and know instantly where your areas of growth are, and the areas that are moving up in home values quickest. So I would highly encourage you to take a look at that.
Northeast Florida Builders Association?
Northeast Florida Realtors
Realtors
Association.
got it.
Yeah, they got a very, very user-friendly link but you have there's probably over 100 pages in it. You have to just speed read down to, or flip the pages down to Putnam County.
Okay.
And then once you see the Putnam County, then you go to the bottom and it'll break out total county. That's the one that's an easier read, and that's one, use what you want to use, but there's a ton of useful information. It'll take you 5 minutes to get it.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Dana, for coming. We're going to take a 3-minute break. Reconvene our Board of County Commission meeting, and the next item on our agenda is Julianne Young. She's going to give us a countywide update.
Can I say something?
You may.
Julianne, thank you for getting us this paper. It allows us to follow what you're doing a lot better. And,
Sure, Commissioner, happy to.
So thank you for getting it to all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. Just to reiterate, the project update presentation is meant to provide the Commission and the public an update on a handful of projects which are of most interest to the Commission, our citizens, and administration. The project list is not intended to be an all-inclusive list of every project or initiative underway by all county departments. If there's a particular question on a project, please feel free to reach out to me and we will get you the appropriate answer.
Julianne, before you get going down the line,
Yes, sir.
explain that this is also on our website so people can see that if they want to see it.
Yep, it gets uploaded by IT. I haven't sent them the file because we are finalizing it, but it'll be within minutes of us finishing up today.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and with that, we'll begin the animal control facility. The core borings were obtained and analysis was provided to Commissioner Rawls, who's making final details on his end. Staff is also preparing a draft RFQ to solicit an engineer architectural services. The Department of Health has the interior building renovation project. The date of substantial completion is scheduled for July 27th. Per the contractor, there will be at least a week's weekly construction meeting. There has been a delay, though, with strobes and fire inspections. The Department of Health is ongoing initiative related to COVID. Testing is now available Monday to Thursday from 9 to 2 p.m. at the Husson Avenue site. Vaccines are available from the Putnam County Department of Health offices Monday to Friday from 9 to 3. Both services are being offered as a walk-up and no appointments are needed for our community. The Department of Health has the on-site sewage treatment and disposal system transfer from DOH to DEP. On-site sewage treatment and disposal system programs will be transferring from DOH to DEP this July. Senate Bill 712 from the 2020 session requires the transfer of the program to DEP effective July 1, 2021. A new interagency agreement will frame the interaction between DEP and DOH and how the local DOH offices will operate. The agreement is legislatively required to cover the next 5 years, allowing for agencies to work on a complete transfer of the program, including CHD employees to DEP at the end of the 5-year period. The timeline can be modified upon mutual agreement. Enforcement of the violations will be directed from DEP. However, the local CHD will assist with notifications and inspections. There are no anticipated local impacts in the near future, as the IA allows the interagency agreement allows for the county health department to operate as they currently do, and both agencies are committed to minimizing any service impacts. The IT department is undergoing a county-wide phone systems upgrade. IT has begun an upgrade to our county phone systems that will replace the copper phone lines with redundant fiber connectivity. This upgrade will result in enhanced performance as well as approximate savings of $1,600 per month. The IT department has a core network router project. IT has completed the reconfiguration of our core network routers. The project has enabled fiber connectivity for redundancy and security purposes. The library has the Melrose Library Expansion Project underway. Construction commenced on July 6, 2021. The tentative construction timeline is as follows. The foundation, steel, and framework inspections was completed on July 16th. Concrete was poured July 20th. Framing July 21st. Mid-August, the framing should be completed and the roofing tear-off started. Brickwork should start at the end of July, and door installation will take place in early August. Parks and Recreation has the Georgetown Park ongoing project. The consultant from the University of Florida has been engaged. They will begin working to assist us with reaching compliance with the management plan aspects as well as identifying areas that we can modify. Staff is exploring options with FCT and LWFC on potential revisions of the management plan and compliance with the items for which are obtainable. The Flora Home Park Historic Building, the exterior lapboard siding has been installed. New siding has been primed. All windows have been reinstalled. Repairs have been made to the original windows as required. They are waiting on a plumber to install the rough plumbing. The Comprehensive Plan Consultant Project, staff is working to address the comments sent to the county by the Department of Economic Opportunity. Addressing the comments will require ongoing staff research, additional language to be incorporated into the comp plan elements, and editing of the comp plan maps. Once the changes are made, staff will bring the comp plan before the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners for final review and adoption. The Building Department has the CitizenServe online permitting project. CitizenServe is underway with the data migration and payment processor implementation. This will continue as we are coming to the end of implementation. Fort Gates Ferry Landing, all the permits have been approved and completed for the project. The statement of work has been completed. Public Works is soliciting quotes, and the lumber has been purchased independently. Barden Bridge, construction is underway. The bridge weight restriction is anticipated to be lifted by the end of August 2021. Final completion is scheduled for October 23rd, 2021. Lake Susan Road, Phase 2, a time extension was approved due to significant weather delays, and the date of completion of all work is now scheduled for August 23rd, 2021. St. John's Avenue resurfacing, Palm Avenue to the CSX crossing at the Palaca Fire Department. 100% design plans have been submitted to FDOT for review and approval. Construction is anticipated to begin by December of 2021. County Road 310 Bridge Rehabilitation Project. The crutch bent system design is in process. Final permitting activities are underway. Septic to sewer conversion. Value engineering discussions have been completed, and further guidance will be requested from the board during this afternoon's workshop. Dirt to pave 2020. All three contractors have begun construction phase of the project. 7 of the 17 roads have now been completed. They are Silver Beach, Magnolia, North Beach, Twin Lakes, Cypress Point Circle, Lakeview Trail, Cinnamon Drive, and Hunter Road is currently underway. East Putnam drainage and flooding mitigation. Construction of the Phase 2 submittal construction of Phase 2 is substantially complete. Phase 2 punch list items are being addressed. Construction of Phase 1 is planned to begin July 28th. Phase 3 bid documents are underway and anticipated to be advertised in August. St. John's Avenue drainage improvement, State Road 19 to County Road 309C. Engineering design services and advertisement for construction activities are scheduled to be completed by January 2022. St. John's Avenue multi-use trail, the change order is being reviewed by FDOT for consideration to provide Putnam County with additional funding. Once a decision has been made by FDOT, the change order will be presented to the BOCC for execution. FDOT will provide the county with concurrence to begin construction after the change order has been approved. East Laura Lane Drainage Project, construction activities are complete, the punch list items have been completed, and the project is now closed out. Tolls Road Drainage, the final request for reimbursement was received and the project is now deemed complete. Countywide drainage improvements, an updated set of bid documents were advertised on July 20th and the bids are due August 16th. South Palm Sidewalk, Druid Street to Silver Lake Drive, 100% design plans reviewed and approved by FDOT and Putnam County. Public Works is currently waiting for the funding agreement for the construction activities. Saratoga Harbor Drainage Project, 100% of the design plans approved by Public Works, scheduled to advertise after the permitting requirements are complete. James A. Long Elementary and Jenkins Middle School safe routes to school, 100% of the design submittals are scheduled for August 25th. Fiscal year 21 road resurfacing project, resurfacing of Doorlight Road is now complete. Swan Lake Drive has been resurfaced and the contractor is currently addressing punch list items. Resurfacing of Old Wielaka Road began July 26th. Resurfacing of Cypress Street is scheduled to begin on August 2nd. All remaining road locations are scheduled to be completed by October 29th, 2021. County Road 315 resurfacing project. RFQ documents for the professional engineering services needed to complete the design are currently under review by General Services and Legal prior to advertisement. Sanitation has the Cell 4A construction project. Cell 4A is moving forward again after 23 inches of rain in a 4-week period stopped production for a couple of weeks. The wet well should be finished this week. Final grading of the cell is going on and a liner should be going down within the next month. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Julianne. Any questions? All right, let's move on to, I do want to point out one thing on the County Road 315. That's from Highway 100, State Road 100, State Road 20, from Grandin to Interlaken, not the south portion. So now's the time on our agenda for anybody who would like to speak on public comments on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It's not reasonable to expect the board will engage or debate and deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information. Again, this is on agenda items. We will be having a public comment on miscellaneous closer to the end of our program here, or our agenda. So, commissioners, right now, do we have anybody that would like to speak in public comment period on agenda items? All right, seeing none, We're going to go to consent agenda. Commissioner Rawls.
I'd like to read something into the record. I got a response from Rich Commando on the uses of TDC money.
I'm sorry,
I'd like to make a comment
about,
about the TDC conversation we had, just to update everyone on the response I got from
can we
Mr.
do that
Commando.
under commissioner comments?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Adamczak, any items you want to pull off the consent agenda? Item D. Now, remember, you got an updated one. You got A through E. Mr. Turner, any items you want to pull?
I have nothing today.
Mr.
I have nothing today.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Pickens?
I have nothing.
Mr. Rawls?
I have nothing.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion on items A, B, C, and E.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussions on items A, B, C, and E in the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Mr. Adamczak, you have item D.
So yeah, under item D, I just want to thank Mr. Troxel and we had some conversations going back and forth. He provided me a lot of information on the background of why he chose the CAT machines and that he did in fact look at other brands. And he gave me some numbers on what they cost and the reason why, even though one was similar, with the experience that the guys have on the current machines, things like that. Again, this goes back to what I've said in several things. I just would like to see that justification written into our documents so the public is aware that we didn't just look at one type of machine, that we, the same thing we talked about when we did the bulldozer. I guess this would apply to all the areas of the county, whether it's fire trucks or otherwise. I keep saying it, so I guess I'm going to keep doing this. I appreciate the effort you did. Just if we could document that, that would be fantastic, and then we can, when I get questions, I have a few hawks that call me because of my personality, and they're like, hey, why aren't we only looking at one brand? And then every time someone's been able to answer that, hey, we looked at several, where if that was just out here in the document, everyone could see that, and that would be just public record. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adamczak. Chair will entertain a motion on item D.
I move that we pass item D as written.
Second.
Proper motion by Commissioner Adamczak, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion on that item? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Next item on our agenda is item 9, presentation of tentative budget, $198,568,114. Julianne, I guess you'll be taking that.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. It is the time where we sent the maximum millage rate and a tentative budget. The statutory requirement is simply that our tentative budget is obtainable to be balanced, and that is what you are given in your documentation of your agenda packet. At the conclusion of 2 days of the Constitutional Office budget workshops and an all-day budget workshop with the executive directors, the board passed a motion to ask staff to bring back a balanced budget, to not use more than 10% of the reserves, to lower the solid waste fees, and to balance the budget without using the use of reserves. They also wanted an increase to all constitutional offices appropriation based on the board set methodology to allocate net new ad valorem revenue. The balanced budget does include a 3% across the board increase for all Board of County Commissioner staff and or a wage adjustment to reach the minimum wage, the greater of the two scenarios. Again, increased allocations for each constitutional office, as well as an interfund transfer to the transportation fund from the general fund to balance the transportation fund. Capital outlay has been removed as we do every year, and we will bring back a detailed capital budget to you in the coming weeks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to go to Commissioners. You have any comments? Commissioner Rawls?
Question. So the spreadsheet that I asked you for the other day, you sent me that. There's everything that's in the expenditure side is included in that 198, correct?
Well, that 198 is your fund appropriation. So yes, although that spreadsheet was raw data, and I understand Ms. Frank sent me a message that you've told her there's some irregularities, and I'll get with you and get you the balancing tables and all of that stuff to break it down for you.
Okay, there's also, there's a $4 million bust between the two.
Right, that's what we just talked about. I'll get with you about get the balancing tables for you and make sure you have the breakdown.
I will not be able to vote in favor of this until we get all that data and take a look at everything. There's literally a $4 million difference between revenues and expenditures, and so that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Is it my understanding that all we're voting for today is to not raise, that we're not gonna raise the millage rate, and this is the maximum amount of our budget is gonna be? We can change the budget anytime between now and the meetings in September.
That's
Did I miss something?
No.
No, sir, all you're doing today is setting your max millage rate. It can go down, it can remain the same. All the numbers in the budget can be turned upside down on their head, or you can leave them as they stand. We're gonna bring you back detailed plans. Again, the raw data that I believe you're referring to is probably the difference when we remove the capital. It comes out of it, and that's roughly that number. But again, I'll have to break it down for Commissioner Rawls, and I told him this morning I'm happy to sit with him and do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adamczak, you have a question?
Yeah, so what was our total budget last year?
I sent that to you, Commissioner Adamczak, but I don't have it in the agenda item. Do you have that with you?
I think it was 150 something million,
Okay.
like 158 maybe. And I guess I just wanted to be in the record. So we're looking to increase the budget by $40 million over last year.
Well, you're not really increasing the budget you are increasing the budget, but remember, we brought in the sanitation fund dollars that were not budgeted at the January 505 meeting the board did. And that was roughly $37 million, give or take. And then, or 30.6, I'm sorry. What you're seeing also is a carry forward of the BPP projects that weren't done. So you're increasing the BPP fund by $5.3 million. So each incremental increase that we're carrying forward, which was done at either your true up at your mid-year when the board accepted the resolution to true those accounts up, and or at special called budget workshops. That's all you're seeing. You're seeing a reflection of accountability for those funds.
Yeah, so the carry forward, the cash forward of the two that you mentioned is 47 million. The total cash forward is 81 million. So I mean, there's a large gap between those two numbers. And I've asked for some details around a lot of this, including our reserves, and I haven't yet received them. So not having the data in hand to understand these numbers, I can't be a yes vote either.
Okay. Mr. Adam, Mr. Rawls?
So, I guess a large part of my anxiety comes from the fact that we don't have any meetings scheduled. There is no promise of any more budget meetings. So that, we can shake this thing upside down, dump it out, whatever. That's all words until an actual meeting's called. What I was hoping we would have was a meeting with our staff, with the directors and department heads. The ones that I've contacted, they don't really have any meaningful increases, if any increases at all, in their budget. So it looks like we're funding the county at the same level we did last year as far as operationally. That doesn't do our staff any good. I've yet to hear any discussion about where we are with our insurance, projected insurance cost. If we're going to be higher, I've been told we're 9 to 10%, maybe more. I don't know. So I just think we need to sit down and have some more conversation about this budget before we actually vote to put something in place like Washington did, where they approved it, the insurance, and then took a look at the bill after it was approved. I just don't feel comfortable doing that.
Julianne, never mind. Mr. Turner, you have the floor.
Again, all they're asking for today is for us to say we're not gonna raise the tax rate, the millage rate. That's all they're asking for.
I disagree.
Well, I don't care what you agree or disagree with, that's what they're asking. So,
We're setting $190 million.
Okay, hang on,
did
Mr.
I
Rawls.
argue with you? Let's go, I don't care.
No, we're not going to do that, Mr. Rawls.
Okay, so it's my understanding that all they're asking for today is for us to say we're not gonna raise tax millage rate. End of story. That's one of the motions. The other motion would be that we're setting the time and place for the final budget hearing. Whatever we do between now and then is not being voted on today. Come on, guys.
That's right.
It's not what's being asked. It's being asked, are we gonna raise millage rate? Or if you want to raise millage rates, then okay, go ahead and say it right up. But if we're not, that's not what they're asking. They're asking us today to keep the millage rate where it is now as a max. We've still got the opportunity to lower millage rates. We've still got the opportunity to do different things with the budget between now and September. All they're asking today is set the millage rate and the proposed tentative budget. It doesn't mean that between now and September we can't do something different with it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Some days I don't get it.
Mr. Adams, that.
So 2 weeks ago, another concern that I have is we asked the question with the ARPA money is whether or not if we lowered millage, which that is what we're voting on, so I don't want to keep it the same. So if we did lower millage rate, if that would affect our ARPA money and our ability to use it. Do we have an answer to that question yet?
It's my understanding there's not been clear guidance to that yet.
But
We have not used the ARPA funding, and the ARPA funding is not considered in the tentative budget that we have here.
Okay. So, I mean, I really need the answer to that question, because, again, I don't see how we can carry 61 million, which is more than our total millage, in reserves, understanding that 20 million of it is required, and another 10% is required, which is only, that number only works out to less than, what, $7 million? The 10%?
I'm happy to sit with you and break down all the numbers.
I don't need you to sit down and break down the numbers. I need you actually to respond to the questions that I ask via email. That's what I need. I need to know what the basis of that 10% is. So I've asked this question in public meetings 3 to 4 times, and I've asked it in email now. And I've reworded it 3 different ways this week. I really just want the multiplier for saying it's 16%. I want the number that is multiplied by the 16% and how that number is derived. I don't know if I can ask it any clearer than that. Do you understand the ask?
I do,
I'm only
and I've
saying that
been
because I'm
responding
frustrated
to your
because I've asked
emails.
it
Let
several
Ms.
times.
Julianne answer the question.
I understand what you've asked for, and as I said, I'm working on giving you a breakdown for that. You sent at least 5 emails yesterday, and I responded to multiple ones, but I also had other things that had to be done, so I wasn't able to just allocate time for that. I'm happy to get you a breakdown of the reserves.
I started that email chain the minute that I got this, which is 1 page for us to justify a $198 million budget, okay? There's no way I could do that without sending several emails, because if any of us aren't sending several emails to justify $198 million or sitting down, I needed the emails responded to so that I had some conversation points to have. So if I just came into your office and I said, Julianne, explain everything to me, we'd still be meeting, okay? So I needed the data that I asked for in order to come up with intelligent conversations and questions that are specific to ask you that you potentially can answer. And I may not even have any. That's the point. I'm not getting the responses that I need to make decisions, not just on this subject, on several other subjects. And I guess if the idea is that I have to come in and sit in someone's office to get a number, a basis of a number, that is ridiculous to me. I'm not saying that because I'm not upset about it. I'm upset that I'm not getting the data. I don't know who keeps the data, why it's so hard to get data. It's very frustrating as a commissioner. I don't know how we justify $188 million because we don't have any justification for it. $61 million in reserves is 150% almost of or 128% of our total influx for ad valorem. We identified 6.9 million that potentially could be given back in some way. Again, I agree if we want to keep 2 years worth of maintenance reserves in the waste management thing, that's a large chunk of it. But we can't be keeping all of it. We're just sitting on it. That's ridiculous. Any money that government has is better off in the hands of the community. There's no one here, no matter what, that can ever convince me otherwise. And that's the problem. I'm trying to identify that this is all actually committed and what it's committed for. We've had the conversation, the first meeting that we had for the budget meeting, I brought up that we have $16 million in general fund reserves. Out there, they sat there and looked and said, yep, they're unencumbered, they're completely unencumbered. The last meeting we had, which was 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Turner identified that really that 16 million is only 7 or 8 million. So I asked for the numbers of what justifies that difference between 16 million, 7 or 8 million, and the response I got was, I don't know what was in Mr. Turner's head when he did that, so is there no encumbrances or is there encumbrances? What are they? I need to know that detail in order to say, yeah, 109, I have to sell this to people. I have to go out. Our community is not stupid. They're not sitting out there going, boy, last year we were at $155 million, this year we're at $198 million. We have to be able to explain that to people. This isn't about us sitting here. I need to be able to explain that to people when they ask me the question. There's people in this room right now that are going to ask me later on in the week. And there's a guy that was in here earlier. He's one of the regular people that's going to contact me, and he's going to say, hey, how did you get there? I can't answer that question. So I can't vote for something that I can't answer simple questions on. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Ross?
I'm not trying to be argumentative, but it does me no good to have another commissioner tell me that we can do this, we can do this. I'm looking for commitments. I can't vote for this because based on what we did, we stopped having our budget meetings. We didn't have 2 days of budget meetings. We didn't listen to staff apparently on what their needs were. And I don't know that we have any budget meetings scheduled for between now and when we actually have to get this thing ratified and moved on. I don't have a problem locking in the rate, no problem whatsoever. But I do have a problem saying that this is going to be our budget, because in the past, this budget becomes this budget. And I don't see that we can sustain, that we can sustain this community with all the issues. I don't know, maybe your areas are dry and you don't have road problems and you guys don't have any culvert and ditch problems, any bridge problems, but in my district, we do. And I'm being sarcastic because I know that you all have the exact same issues coming before you on a daily basis. But if we can't sit down and have a meaningful conversation, not throwing a noodle at the wall and hoping that it sticks and say, well, let's just give the sheriff's department 54% and let's do this and let's do this, have a total conversation. I asked Mr. Commando, I said, the other counties that you work with, how do they handle their budgeting? And he said Bradford County spends, I think he said two full 8-hour days, and then they go through with their constitutionals, 2 per month, sitting down, having lengthy discussion, chewing through. And he said when they sit down, their finance director has a 4-inch thick binder. He said it must have 2 reams of paper in it. And I went, wow, that's the kind of information I need. I was able to get that kind of information when we had an Office of Budget Manager, a person that actually did nothing but our budget. Now we've just crammed so many jobs into one person here. And I'm not talking about just Julianne, but we have multiple positions where you have people handling multiple jobs. So you've got a jack of all trades, you got a master of none. And I think we've made a lot of mistakes in allowing the county administrator to just run with this notion that he can, gosh dang, if I ask Julian, how many hats do you wear right now as we speak?
I don't sit around and count them.
HR, IT, General Services, Office of Budget Manager.
Well, I'm only serving as an interim HR and IT, and
But it does no good that we have all this on one individual. And then if you take a look at Public Works and what he's got to deal with, and I just don't know that, again, I'm not going to be able to vote on this until there's a guarantee that we're going to sit down and have meaningful conversations and break this budget apart and do it a different way. I think we just continue this chaotic cycle of chasing our tail, and we've got to bring it to an end at some point.
Thank you, Mr. Rawlin. Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, so what we're being asked to do is to approve this tentative budget, right? That could be changed, will be changed as we move forward, and to set a maximum millage rate that we're going to look at, and we could also lower it. All right, there's a time frame on that.
So you're being asked today to do 2 things. Accept the tentative budget and set the proposed millage rate, which is your maximum millage rate. Then secondly, by motion, set the time, date, and place for the tentative and final budget hearings. Those are the only 2 items that you're being asked to do today.
Okay, but to set the millage rate, it's about to be done by the end of this month, is that correct?
Yes.
That's what I thought. We're about to the end of the month, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Turner?
But excuse me,
Oops, I'm
I
sorry.
would, if we could, Chairman Harvey, that'd be up to you, is to schedule some more meetings, to have some more conversations, and maybe bring, Matt wasn't at, I don't believe, the budget hearing where you, Matt, so that might be advantageous to maybe have a special called meeting for that,
How's it feel to be down there now?
So,
Thank you, Mr. Pickens. Mr. Turner?
I think that there are some other discussions that we need to have, but like I've said, until I've just about run out of breath, is that not what they're asking today? They're asking today to set the maximum millage rate, not if we're gonna reduce it later or whatever, because I'm with Commissioner Adams. I do want to reduce the millage rate if we can work that out. This is the maximum millage rate, and then the tentative budget. So, do you need to have some public hearings out there before I make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I just have one more comment, and then we'll come back to that. Okay, Mr. Adams, that?
Again, the trim is not raising taxes. Keeping the millage rate the same is raising taxes. I just want to be clear about that for the public.
Mr. Turner, you want to make a motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the tentative budget and set the proposed maximum millage rate at the current rate.
Thank you. We have proper motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Pickens. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 3-2. The next, okay,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we set the date and time for the tentative budget hearing as Tuesday, September 14th at 2021 at 5:05, and the final budget hearing Tuesday, September 28th, 2021 at 5:05 in this boardroom.
Second.
a proper motion by Commissioner Turner to set the date and time as proposed in the agenda, and it's
Can you
proper.
repeat those, please? I want to go and put my schedule.
They're on your agenda packet on page 119.
But I didn't change them.
And it's proper second by Commissioner Adamczak. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Let me assure you, gentlemen, we will be having additional meetings as additional information comes forth. And Sam is diligently working on things, and so is Julianne. So we will be seeing that in the near future. Clerk of the Court, Mr. Reynolds, you have any comments you'd like to make today, sir?
No, sir, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Good to see you over there, as always, you and Susan.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Appointments, I'll start to my far right. Mr. Adamczak, you have any appointments you'd like to make?
I see that Mr. Barrican's reappointment is listed here, but last meeting I thought that I had reappointed him already, so I
We've
guess.
corrected that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm all set.
Okay, Mr. Turner, you have any appointments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to appoint April Singleton to the District 3 Fair Advisory Board, back on the Fair Advisory Board. And also, along those same lines, I brought it to the Deputy Administrator's attention that I'm almost certain that the Value Adjustment Board was already made up a couple of months ago or something.
I thought.
That's also been corrected.
Todd Dixon was reappointed or voted back on.
We cannot find Mr. Dixon. We can find the motion where the chair and vice chair, but I have not located Mr. Dixon's
Well, I
appointment.
hereby make it then, because
Thank
I
you.
thought it was there. So I nominate Todd Dixon for the at-large position on the VAB.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, Todd's back on.
Thank
I
you.
thought it had already been done, because I remembered asking him myself, and he said he did, that he would. So
Thank you.
I may not have done it, but, and I think that's all I have for today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Pickens?
Yeah, I'm working on a candidate for the affordable housing. I was able to send them some information this past week, so I'm hoping for a commitment there. Also, on the Better Place Plan Advisory or Oversight Committee, I'm working on a candidate, and also Mayor Zanscala, I left him a message that he needs to make a nomination there for the representative of the town of Pomona Park. I'd like to renominate John Newbold for another term on the Greenbelt Advisory Committee.
That's just an appointment.
Yep. So noted.
Okay, and then also District 1, Nancy Taylor for the Library Board.
So noted. Thank you, sir.
That's all I have.
Mr. Rawls?
For District 2, for the Fair Board, be putting Kyle Gaylord on in place of Dustin Kaysen. And I asked staff yesterday to reach out to him to fill out the application. They're going to send him the application and email him all that. They have his contact info.
Good deal. Kyle's a fine gentleman, there's no doubt about it. So is Dustin, so. Okay, duly noted. Is there any more, Mr. Ross?
I know that's all I have.
Okay. And I am going to reappoint Wanda Ruckowitz to the Animal Services Committee and Carolyn Bennett to the Library Board. And now we move on to County Administrator. Terry Suggs is not here today, so Ms. Julianne, any comments?
We're all good over here, sir.
Okay, County Attorney Rich Commando is out today, so he has no
We're all
comment.
good over here, sir.
Another hat you're
Another
wearing
hat,
today. That's fine, that's fine. I was talking to a person who runs a large organization, well, I'll say Florida Association of Counties, and she said they're general practitioners there. There's no specialist in that organization whatsoever, so. Commissioner comments, I'll start with Commissioner Rawls.
It's been one of those interesting meetings, but I think at some point we owe it to the public to sit down and discuss our contracts that we have. I've been asking for years, literally, to get a list of the contracts that we have that are open. We're servicing contracts and we're paying invoices. And I was told that the staff had started back in 2019 putting together a spreadsheet. And, 2 years later, we still don't have, I don't have it at least. And what I was looking for was start dates and end dates, wanting to see what contracts that we've had. There's been some times in the past when we've had to rush in and extend a contract twice in 2 years, the exact same contract. And, that's one of the reasons for having something like this. It's a useful tool. But it's difficult for me as a commissioner to be able to make decisions without looking at data. And it's nothing that somebody can, sit me down and say, well, tell us what contract you want to look at, and we'll look at that one. I would just like to see what contracts we have in place, who we're paying, and why we're paying in some cases. There's some contracts that I'm aware of that are in excess of 20 years old, and we haven't this commission has not looked at them and even re-ratified them. And talking to Mr. Commando, he says that's not a good way to do business. I think it's a very poor way to do business, to be honest with you. But I think we need to sit down and have a conversation about that. I was a little perturbed that the Veterans Monument Protection Ordinance was not on, for first reading today. I didn't know why that wasn't on. I hope we haven't dropped that ball. We had a workshop on it. Normally things go from workshop to agenda item, but didn't see it. So hopefully we'll see it at the next go around. But that's all I got. Well, you know what? Also, we had a really good turnout. I know Commissioner Pickens stuck his head in for a second, and Commissioner Harvey and Adam Deck were here for the substance abuse and mental health discussion. What was really probably the most glaring moment that happened in that meeting was when Judge Janesk stood up and was shocked to see all the available resources in Putnam County. And he did that. He says, in 10 years as a prosecutor and now as a judge, I'm really amazed that we don't know about this. So it just kind of drove home the point that we need to have a central location where the services can be housed, just if they had nothing else, have an office. I was made aware yesterday that United Way is looking to move an office back to Putnam County, which I think is a good thing. The folks at the Continuum of Care over in Alachua County made their apologies. He said flat out, we've neglected Putnam County, but we're going to start having a better presence here. But it's under Florida Chapter 125. We sit up here and we talk about our roles and responsibilities and our quote-unquote fiduciary responsibilities. We have an obligation to provide hospitals, ambulance service, and health and welfare programs. I think we have a great opportunity with the money that we're getting from the federal government. I think from an infrastructure perspective, everything that I just said, that money can be used for. But when we talk about hospitals, and the hospital had a representative at that meeting, he was not prepared to answer questions. It was really amazing how ill-prepared he was. And I shared with him that I was frustrated because as a private corporation, the only hospital that we have in Putnam County, they are not a Baker Act receiving facility. And that puts a burden on our sheriff's department and on some of our other agencies. So I really think that we need to have a conversation going forward. Taking a look at our strategic plan that we never finished. The strategic plan was sent to us as a draft. It never got polished and published. I really think that we owe it to the public to take that strategic plan and start working it, to start establishing policies. I think that if we had some direction, this afternoon we're going to be talking about IT. And the other day I wrote on the top of my page, this is unfair to staff, us talking to a private corporation about them coming in and providing IT services, and yet we didn't afford staff the same consideration. So I think we owe it to our staff to start establishing policies for us to come up with not just our goals and objectives, but taking that across the finish line and putting in policies and procedures, and then starting to fund these policies in a way that everybody knows what they can look forward to on a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year basis. I hate the fact that I feel like we're just running around putting out fires on a daily basis, fixing this road, and then another one gets wiped out. And, this conversation today was whether or not we had enough material to fix a road between now and the end of the year. And I hate that. I really do hate that for the employees that have to deal with that. So I think that we need to spend more time in these chambers, whether it's 4 days a month, take our extra 2 Tuesdays, 8 days a month, 10 days a month. I'm willing to dedicate the time and the energy to move this county forward, but I think we need to start doing it sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rawls. Mr. Adams.
Yeah, so the main thing is we can do a convention center with the TDC money. So I just don't know which pool it would have to come from, because there is a breakdown in our thing. So I'll follow up more on that, but that is part of the state statute, which I didn't need to ask Rich. I know how to read. So the TDC, EDC, I mean, I think that's part of the contracts that we need to start reviewing and updating. I mean, we need to modernize those. They're 30-some years old. There's some things that just are real generic that refer to the plan, right? So there is no requirements of what the plan entails. It's 2021, not 1995. So these things should be published in a way that's very easily navigable for all of us to access and look at. We shouldn't have to ask people and wait and to get these things for things that we're funding. I mean, to me, it seems like there should be some sort of dashboard or link on our website. And at one point, there was links to some of this on the website, and then it stopped. So the EDC meeting minutes used to be out there. I can't find them anywhere. So I don't know. It just seems like if the public's funding all this stuff, that the public should have access to it. As far as TDC, EDC meetings, do we advertise those for multiple commissioners to attend?
We'll find out.
Yeah. I'd like to have them advertised and maybe added to our calendar, since it is a function of government. And I'd like to at least attend and listen in. If I kind of have not, just because I wasn't sure if they were advertised. On the Putnam County Development Authority, in the document that founds that from the state, because that is kind of a state agency, not really a county agency, it does specify that there's 3 commissioners on that. Who are the 3 commissioners? Because
I'm one, I don't know who the other 2 are.
What committee was it?
The Development Authority.
I was on it.
So obviously that would have to be,
Bill and
I was on it, but
so their meetings would have to be published as well. So are they advertised? And I'd like to see them on our calendar as well, because that's a multiple commissioner meeting, and has been since it was adopted in 2003. So, and part of the reason I want to review this stuff is because there's process things that could get us in trouble. There's process things that aren't being done just because we're not aware, or whatever the reasons are, that we can protect ourselves by being aware of all these different agencies and all these different groups. And, I appreciate what Dana is doing. I appreciate all the effort that she puts into it. I was not trying to say I don't appreciate that. So I just want to be clear on that. I don't think that an individual can do all those roles and all those things and facilitate all the things she's doing. And looking at the minutes that I do have access to for these meetings, she is one of the main participators across the board in all of them. So that means she's putting a lot of thought into each and every one of those things. That is not in the best interest of any of those organizations or groups for one person to be doing all of that, because the focus can't possibly be on that one thing. That's the whole reason why we separated them out. And we have someone that's supposed to be dedicated to one. We got Sam came today, and then I guess we have Julie Linton in the other. And then I actually have no idea who the head of the Development Authority is. I guess, would that be the chairman?
It was Tim Smith, but I don't know who is at the moment.
Right.
Was the clerk.
So I think you're on that.
I don't believe that. I don't believe the authority has had a meeting since Mr. Smith
Yeah, we
left the
hadn't had
clerk's
one in a
office.
couple of years.
Yeah,
It
so,
would be as necessary.
yeah, it's not exactly what the state statute says, but okay. So, I mean, there's supposed to be updates that come to the county commission and stuff more regularly than every 2 years. But that's fine, we can explore that later. But this is just the point, is I think we need to make sure that we're aware of all these things that are happening and that should be happening. And honestly, if the Development Authority, which controls some really key pieces of property in Putnam County, is only meeting every couple of years, I think that's, in this current climate, where we're seeing the growth we're seeing and we're seeing the opportunity we're seeing, I think that's a mistake. So I think we need to probably get that group meeting again, whether it's biannually or whatever the requirements are by the statute that created them. which I have a copy of sitting here in my folder. So if anyone wants it, I'm more than happy to give it to you. So we need to be doing that. I think there is opportunities in what was talked about the port. There obviously is, because immediately after that meeting, Dana came over to me and said, hey, there is land owned by a development authority. She didn't tell it to me because she wanted it to be a secret. She told me, so we knew. So we knew that there is opportunity down the road on the other side of Veritas Steel, and I was not aware of that. I was aware that there was lands owned by the development authority. I just didn't know where their locations was. So that had me look it up a little bit more. So there's actually another piece of land on the other side of that industrial area. So these are things we need to really start taking advantage of. That's in the best interest of our citizens, whether it's the state agency of the development authority or it's our local TDCs and EDCs. I don't agree with the TDC carrying a lot of money forward in reserves, because that money should be used. It should be utilized as it's gotten, unless if it's for a project. If we had said the scope of it is we want to build a convention center someday, or we want to build a stadium, which is allowed, or whatever that is, then I can see setting aside a percentage until you get the millions of dollars that you need for that. But we're setting things aside all throughout this budget that we don't have any plan for. The plan is just in case. $61 million of just in case money without me understanding is insane to me. And again, I just need to understand. If someone can explain what all those dollars are for and why they're in reserves and why they need to be there by statute and then by reasoning, I could probably get there, but I just haven't heard any of that. And I need the data first before I can ask the questions that I want to ask to get fulfilled. So I apologize that I came across as aggressive, but I've been asking the same stuff over and over again, and I'm not getting it, so thank you.
Thank you,
Can I ask
Mr.
a
Adams.
question?
Mr. Pickens, you have the floor.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Mr. Pickens has the floor, right?
You can ask a question, go ahead.
So the EDA owns property, is that right?
They do.
Yes,
Two pieces, two large.
like
tracts.
6 pieces, but yeah,
Well,
because they
How
own
many
stuff in
acres is that
Kmart.
total?
It's over
it goes
100.
from it goes from the north side of Veritas Steel all the way around to Bryce Creek.
Rice Creek,
Bryce
okay,
Creek,
because
so
I
it's
stumbled across
wetland.
a
A lot
piece,
of it's wetland.
I stumbled across a piece of wetlands
Right.
adjacent to a property that we have a customer wants to build a building on, and I saw the EDA, that goes from, it's on where the bridge goes over Rice
On the
Creek.
right.
That exactly, but that's all,
It goes around to the.
can't really use that property, but.
There might be some, but
Well,
yeah. it's-
so here's my other question, though. Sam talked about a project and tying it to the Port Authority, and is there a conversation going on in the background? Because we really should be involved in this at some point, and.
There is a conversation going on.
Well, I'm flabbergasted as a commissioner. I can't talk to the public about a conversation that's going on about their property that they own, because nobody has come. This is the first time that I've heard about this property being owned north of the Port Authority.
There's also property on Springside Cutoff Road that the Development Authority owns, right there behind the airport. Okay?
The clear zone,
No.
not the Port Authority, the EDA.
EDA, yeah. You can look it
But
up.
what's crazy is when I asked for a breakdown of all parcels of land owned by the
The
public,
EDA
and
owns that, not
I
Putnam
asked
County.
for Port Authority, I asked for County Commission. Nobody said, oh, by the way, there's this thing called the EDA, which is also, because you're saying this is publicly owned land, right?
It's owned by the EDA.
But not by the Board of County Commissioners
Correct.
and not by the Port Authority.
Correct.
It's owned by another authority.
Correct.
I think we really owe it to ourselves to have a workshop and discuss what the land is, why the EDA has it, what they're doing with it, and how it impacts the public in the future.
Okay. Mr. Pickens, you do have the floor, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Harvey. Just a few things. Tuesday, August 3rd, the Pomona Park Neighborhood Watch is having a party in the park at Mayor Berkowitz Park in Pomona Park about 5 o'clock to 7, I believe, where they're just going to ask different officials to come down and just make a few comments and I believe they'll have some food items there. Last Wednesday, I had my quarterly meeting with the District 1 mayors, Mayor Venzgala from Pomona Park and Mayor Michelle Myers, who's in the audience today, were able to meet with me. Jamie Watts had a commitment that he couldn't come. And so we had about an hour and a half meeting, just discussed different issues with the county and with the cities. So it was still a good meeting. I'm glad we're continuing those. Tonight at 5 at the Moose Lodge, some of the concerned citizens are having a biosolids information meeting at the Moose Lodge from 5 to 7. And then Thursday evening at the South Putnam Church Complex, the Cube at 284 Union Avenue, I'm hosting a town hall meeting, information meeting on biosolids with State Representative Bobby Payne from 5 to 7. And Bobby's going to go over the application process and then talk about the water bill that he passed that deals with biosolids. So that's open to the public. And this was a really cool experience for me. I was able to go tour the Seminole Electric Expansion Project last Friday, and I want to thank Ryan Hart for arranging that. And then one of the senior project engineers, a mechanical engineer, Joe Gonzalez, took me around in a golf cart. I did have to suit up with protection equipment, a hard hat and glasses and gloves and everything else. But it was really interesting for him to explain the progress of the project, and he tried to explain to me how it worked. He said I did ask some good questions, but we spent about an hour, and it's just really a tremendous project to be in our community and the commitment to Putnam County that Seminole Electric has. So I just want to thank everybody for that tour and appreciate what they're doing. That's all I have.
Thank you. And I do want to say to Commissioner Rawls, thank you for the health summit that was put on with you and Mr. Suggs' administration and the hard work that was done. I found it very, I made an opening statement that you're just going to be peeling back an onion today, and the more you peel back, the harder it's going to get. But, and I said our baby was ugly, or this baby might be ugly and we need to look at it. I really do believe that mental health ties in with a lot of problems in our county. And, when I got appointed and then elected, there's one thing that drives me, and it's a very personal experience, but my mother was a single mother, and life was not easy in growing up for me and my sister at that time. And I always thought if I can make the single mother with children life a little better, everybody else wins at that point. So I look at almost all the decisions we make based on that one filter that goes through first. But Commissioner Rawls, I really want to say that it was a very well-attended meeting, very well put together. Your wife did a tremendous job, and Karen, I'm sorry.
And Lindsay.
Yeah, and Lindsay, did a great job with the food, and it was just really, really, you felt welcomed, you felt like you could talk, and just really want to thank you for that. I do want to say this afternoon we have a 2 o'clock workshop. And then this evening, we have a 6:30 joint meeting with the Town of Interlaken Council at C.H. Price Middle School, which is now part of Interlaken High School. So those are my comments, and I appreciate that. Is there any public comment on miscellaneous? Oh, sorry.
Just forgot me. Just forget all about, the second meeting in a row, you just absolutely forgot about me.
Commissioner Turner, do you have any comments you'd like to make today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I also went to the Seminole site, and I agree with Mr. Pickens. I didn't go with him. I went a couple of days before, but it was a great tour. Being in the business, it was really impressive. Yeah. I wanted to bring to everybody's attention that's watching today or whatever. I was told something that was very concerning to me that the public should definitely know, and that is that because of all the work that's been going on and coming in and the rain and the different work, the public works for regular work orders about 9 months behind right now. And I hope I didn't not trying to put you on the spot, Mr. Troxell, but if that's the case, we need to try to figure out ways that we can aid him in getting that. Now, I think that that's regular work orders, not emergency work orders by any means, but I think we need to start maybe come up with ways that we can, throwing more employees at him ain't gonna do it because he can't fill the slots he's got already. We got to think out of the box somehow. I don't know if it's better equipment. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is, but we need to think a little out of the box because 9 months out is pretty tough. Yeah. Is pretty tough. So anyhow, I'd like to try and maybe at some point come up with maybe a solution we can find or something. I know that we've tried for other solutions before, but it's just, I don't think that should be acceptable to any of us sitting up here, and there's just not a heck of a lot Mr. Troxel can do about it at this point. And so, until it gets to the point where we're accusatory or whatever, I think we just need to try and see if we can't find some way to help this. I do also would like to say that, you know, I think this is one of those perfect meetings, like Commissioner Rawls said earlier. It's not always a pleasure on every single subject, but if somebody was to pay attention, they'd see that we agree on more than we disagree on. We have a few that we don't, but on most of the time, we disagree on most. And
Agree
I
on
guess
most.
on most, we agree on most. And so I just want to try to bring that to the attention where when the paper tomorrow says anger's flare and we threw erasers at one another and did all that kind of stuff, that maybe they'll at least put a line of truth in there, which is actually that we get along on most things. But every now and then we find one. And yes, the people sitting up here are very passionate about those things that they may not agree on, and so it might get a little more heated than what it should. But it's still, we agree on most. With that, Mr. Chairman, that's my comment.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, like you had a question from Mr. Turner?
Yeah, well, on his last statement, I fully accept your passion and appreciate it. And I agree fully that we do agree on 90% of things. But I fully agree with you on the public works thing. And ditch digging seems to be one of the major sticking points, at least in District 5. I don't know what kind of calls you guys get. And that does seem like an area where we have limited amount of equipment. I think we only have one grade all. How many grade alls we got?
3.
3 grade alls. We just don't have the crew to run them.
2 of them are down in District 1 though, so.
Yeah.
And the other one's broke down.
I knew that was.
Yeah.
One and the other one's broke down.
So the issue is we don't have the staff. So I mean, I think we do need to do something to address this sooner than later, and especially around the ditch digging specifically. It seems like that's one of the ones that jumps out all the time. That when I talk to him, he's backlogged months on that one.
I actually asked him when he was telling me this story if we bought another one of those machines that went on these mowers that digs the ditches quickly or cleans out the ditches quickly, the heads or whatever, if that would help. And he said he didn't know, just yet. He wanted to look at it some. And so that may be an option or maybe not, I don't know. But I did ask him to look at some of that. And, I don't know. If we could buy a piece of equipment that we could do some of that with, I know that we've got to have somebody to run it or take somebody that's already running something to run it, one or the other. But, if there's an option we could come up with, I'd be game to listen to it. There's no doubt in my mind. So I just wanted to bring that up today.
Is there like a machine operators union or anything around Florida at all? There's nothing like that where you could pull?
We're a right-to-work state. There's not many unions.
No, I understand that, but I mean, sometimes there's still a labor pool, right? I mean, we have the carpenters union in the county, for God's sakes.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you.
Okay.
If I could
I
say
do
one
want to
thing.
say one thing before we go to comments. We get 5 inches of rain in 3 hours in West Putnam. And I don't care where you're at in this county, you're not going to deal with it. That water went away pretty darn quick the following day for the most chance. But this weather pattern that we seem to be under, it's not like an inch here, an inch there, which we can handle. It's a deluge, and it's constant. I mean,
I hate to laugh about it, but you're exactly
Yeah,
right. And somebody call you up and just give you a fit.
Right.
And you say, well, I'll come back right now and look at it. Well, you should have came yesterday afternoon. It's all gone now.
Right.
It ran off.
Exactly.
That's what it's supposed to happen.
That's the right. All right, so now we're going to go to public comment on miscellaneous items. Do we have any public comment on miscellaneous items? And seeing no one rushing the podium, this meeting's adjourned. See you at 2 o'clock.